Hello everyone. How are you guys doing today? Thanks for coming in right as the video went up. I should have a few seconds delay, but should start seeing you guys, seeing me in chat. We all good to go? Looks like my camera's working, the sound is working. How are you guys doing today? I am so sorry that I have missed a couple of videos here on YouTube. I wasn't feeling well last week, and I wasn't up for a video. And so in order to kind of apologize for that, I thought we'd do a live stream today instead of me recording this off camera and then just uploading it. So that is what we were going to do today. Welcome to everyone who's new. Welcome to everyone who isn't new, who has been here for a long time. And today we are going to be working on Sennelier. If you're not familiar already, I have a Swatch with Me series where we go through most of a brand or an entire brand of watercolor paints, and we look at all the different colors so that you guys can try and make more informed buying decisions. It's not to tempt you to go out and buy all of the colors. It is just to help you give a comparison of what is out there. Now, the first time I did this Swatch with Me video, it was on some cheap paper. So we're going to be redoing that on Arches today. And the last time it was also minus opera. And since I got this nice little box palette set for Christmas, which you guys might have seen in another video, which has opera, I can do the full line today. Ellen, no, it's not to intentionally tempt you. I mean, I know it ends up doing that, I'm sorry, but it's mostly just for your reference. I totally forgot to do this before I started the stream, and it's gonna be kind of loud. Let me know if it's too terrible. I have to peel off these little plastic strips here, and they're a little bit finicky. So if you missed the first video, sorry, there's a siren going by, we'll wait for that. Otto sent me this dot card a while ago, so I don't know when the first video was. I forgot to look, but that all is in the description below, along with Otto's channel if you want to go ahead and check her out. So thank you to her for sending this. I should have enough paint in here to do everything again. There might be one or two colors that I don't have enough of, and then again I can supplement if the cards align and I have the color in my palette box, I can go ahead and swatch those as well. So we're just going to be going by row. I had originally gotten this, it was all one big sheet of plastic, but I cut them into strips so that I wouldn't be dragging my hand through paint. And I have one last thing I wanted to tell you guys before we get started painting. And that is, if you don't already follow me over on Instagram or Patreon, this is new news to you. I have some new stickers in the shop, so I thought I'd go ahead and show those to you. It's a little hard with the glare from the lights, but I've got a few new animal stickers from paintings that you all really seem to like recently, as well as some of my new my unicorn series. So we've got the Okapicorn, the Moosicorn, and the Betacorn. They're in a little 3-pack over there, and there's other new stickers, and I also have my Animal Eyes collection from the challenge that I did over there too. So I just wanted to let you guys know here on YouTube that if you wanted to go ahead and get any of that, they're over on Etsy right now, which there is also a link in the description below. All right, what did I miss in chat? Hi, Ian. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Oh, chat's moving too fast already for me. What did Ian say? We're going to address the Jackson watercolor Sennelier. Okay, so Ian asked if we're going to be talking about Sennelier versus Jackson's house brand. I cannot give any official word on that because of the fact that that is not public knowledge. I can say that I talked to someone at Jackson's and they said that they can confirm that there's a European brand that supplies them with their house brand of paint, but that is as much as they could say. I have a box of, hold on, let me get my other screen back up here so I can make sure this is in frame. I have some Jackson's paints that I got specifically to do a review for you guys and a comparison with Sennelier. I haven't really gotten to play with them yet though, so that's going to come later. I will say that I've noticed a couple of really interesting combinations of colors that are the same in both brands, so I know that there's a lot of speculation regarding that. But today we're just going to do the swatch with me. Now I have to catch back up. Oh, thank you so much for all the kind comments on my hair. This is luckily, I mean, I woke up, it's day 2 hair. I haven't refreshed it or anything like that, but I wanted to cooperate today, so that is nice. I see Eve is here, Tiffany is here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't think it's much of a controversy with Jackson's and Sennelier. There's plenty of brands of paint that do house brands and sell under other labels, so. All right, I think we should be good to go. Sorry for those of you who are watching this on replay and have sat through, you know, 8 minutes of catching up, but hopefully those of you who are here for the live are enjoying yourselves. I'm gonna go ahead and set these to the side. How do we want to do this? I guess I don't want to be crossing over all the time. And also you guys are a little far away. What are we doing? I thought I got this close enough, but maybe I did not. How's that? Is the image still sharp? This one here? Hopefully. All right. Yes. Good to see it on Arches this time around. I'm sorry that the first time I did this series that it was on that cruddy paper. I thought that it was fine for swatching at the time, and then since then you guys know my opinions that I do believe that you should absolutely swatch on high quality paper. As we saw in the Swatch With Me series, that a lot of these colors just do not look nice on poor quality paper. All right, hey Joe. Thanks for being here too, Eve. I already thanked Ian, but I appreciate the mods popping in. We're starting with nickel yellow. I'm not going to do the whites just because, I mean, does that really give you any information in a video? I don't think it really does. And after I do these videos, I go ahead and put these scanned swatch pages up on my Patreon. So if you are looking for that, you can find it over there. Now, I did do this, this layout a long time ago. When I first decided to do the Swatch With Me Again series, I went ahead and made this. So it's not quite in line with the newer swatch cards I've been doing on the channel. If you're wondering why it looks a little bit different, it's in the older style, but hopefully you guys don't care about that. Nickel yellow is made from PUI 53 and it's an opaque, cool yellow. Do you guys, is this close enough for you? Can you let me know? Is it clear? Is it close enough? Can you see what we're working on? I know on cell phones it's probably going to be really hard to see how small they are. And this glare is really ugly too. I don't know if there's a lot I can do about that. I can do this over here, but then like, I don't know, it's still glare. Let me know what you guys think. Have I tried Pigment marketing? Yes, I have. Not a huge fan. Thank you, Ian, for reminding everyone to go ahead and click the like button if you're enjoying the video so that it can get seen by more people. There's one request for closer. Okay, I can do that. It's going to take a second. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring you in, and then I have to adjust the focus on the camera. Squeaky camera noises. Is that close enough? And then I'm going to come over here. Configure. Is that sharper? It should have gotten sharper. The only thing I can, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry guys. Oh my goodness, that was way too loud and I profusely apologize. I can do this if that matters, but then I'm gonna have to move it when I go onto this side of the swatch card. So I don't know how much that's gonna help. It's just gonna be pretty finicky. I'm sorry for all of your ears. I didn't mean to hit it. I didn't mean to. Okay, all right, we're back on track. Hopefully I didn't cause anyone to go. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. All right. Can I do more tutorials? I do 3 tutorials a month over on my Patreon. That is up from the 2 I originally did over there. We unlocked a 3rd tutorial a month over there. So if you'd like full real-time tutorials, they're available over on that platform. I also have classes on Skillshare, and I am just doing my best to keep my head above water with YouTube. I have so many videos that I want to get done over here, and those include brand reviews, comparisons, studio tutorials. I mean, there's so many things that I want to get done and just not enough time to do them, so I'm trying. Is my super chat on? I don't think so. I don't think I have super chat. That's where you pay for things, right? I don't think that's enabled on YouTube for me. If anyone is interested in supporting and don't want to do Patreon, I do have a Ko-fi account. And if there is a ton of interest, I can look into the super chat. I just didn't want you guys to feel like I'm asking you for money on every platform available. Also, if you can make sure you type the word question in all caps when you ask a question so I can try and see it. Don't type your whole question in caps. And then you can write the rest of your question as a normal sentence. That'll help me to see them as I go through the chat. Yeah, Eve says that Super Chat keeps 30% of the donations through Super Chat, so it's a pretty steep cut. So, like I said, I have a Ko-fi account, and I also have the Patreon, and I appreciate everyone who wants to support me so much. I just don't want people to think that I'm pinching your pennies every which way. I'm glad you're enjoying watching this while de-stressing. Oh, thank you so much for the word about my Skillshare classes. Thank you, Eve, for linking the Ko-fi. I appreciate it. Question, do I like urban sketching? I paint animals, so not really. I like going out to the zoo and sketching animals there. I did that recently with Hajra and Jennifer, actually, from the Animal Artist Collective, and you can go ahead and see a little vlog style video over on Jennifer's channel. She took some footage while we were there. How are you doing? Miss Tiffany is here in chat, and if you guys don't know, her name is Grey Wonder Gallery in the chat right now. She is one of our longtime friends of the channel, one of my personal friends in person through the channel. Luckily, I've gotten to hang out with her quite a bit, and she just started her own YouTube channel. So you can go ahead and check out her channel if you're interested. Do you have any budget-ish recommendation for someone who's used Cotman watercolors and is looking to upgrade? So I have a video from last year called Top 10 Watercolor Brands. It's part of my Top 5 series. And in the first section of the video, I have some economy picks for you guys. And I'm also working on redoing that video. So I will have a current up-to-date 2018 one. However, the new one is not going to focus solely on budget friendly. Like, there isn't going to be a separate student grade section. But long story short, I like White Nights as a budget friendly artist grade watercolor paint. But I do recommend you hand pick your colors instead of buying a pre-made set, because there's a lot of opaque colors and fugitive colors in the sets that they put together. I might have missed a little bit. I looked back up and the entire chat was different. Question, which is the more lucrative way to support you, Patreon or Skillshare? They're both wonderful. Patreon is more direct. Skillshare creators get paid per the minutes that you watch. So if you sign up to Skillshare and you watch my video and you watch 60 minutes of a video, Skillshare takes the entire amount of money that they get from the entire month from the subscription costs, and they divide that by minutes watched to the creator. So it is an actual, it actually pays better than I ever thought it would when I first started creating content for that platform, but it is dependent on how many minutes are watched and how much money gets brought into the site. Patreon is more direct. They do take a cut, but it's a great way to help support the channel. Thank you guys for asking about that. Gosh, I missed chat again already. We have, oh, I dipped my hand in paint. We have over 100 people in the chat right now. Thank you guys all for being here. Let me just peek real quick. I try not to do this in the live streams for watchability. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any important one. Any tips for newbies for painting animals and nature-based work? Like I mentioned, I have tons of real-time tutorials over on Patreon. I have a couple here on the channel if you want to go ahead and take a look at those. And I highly recommend checking out John Muir Laws's channel, John Muir Laws. He is a nature-based nature art journaler and has some great content as well. Okay, I think I just have to catch up to real-time chat so we don't get too logged down. So if I missed your question, you can feel free to type it again. I don't mind you doing that. What professional watercolor is my least favorite? I don't like playing that game. I don't like bad-mouthing anyone. There are different brands for different people, and I am a strong proponent of getting what you enjoy working with. So my favorite brand might not be your favorite brand. My least favorite brand might not be your least favorite brand. And like I said, I'll go ahead and come out with that new top 10 video so you'll have a little bit better idea. Oh, thanks, Eve. Yeah, I can put it on slow mode if we need to. I don't think I'm that fancy. You guys are just real active today, which I love. I love seeing all your guys' questions. I don't want to stop you guys from chatting with each other. So if you guys collectively think I should put slow mode on, I can, but otherwise we'll let it keep going. Marley, I missed your question. Can you type it again for me if that wasn't your question? I'm going to go ahead and catch up on what we've been doing. So I already talked about the nickel yellow. We have lemon yellow, which is PY3. I have Rulian, which is PY40. This is a fugitive color, really pretty middle yellow, but not light fast. We have cadmium yellow, which is PY35, primary yellow, PY74, and cadmium yellow light, again, PY35. Someone asked about Isaro watercolors. I have not tried them. I have a little bit of landscape painting under my belt, but not a lot. I don't enjoy it. I like animals and animal eyes, and that's just where I am naturally drawn, so that is what I enjoy painting. All right. Sennelier does do really beautiful yellows. You are right. Are there any branches that still use... There's no more Quinn Gold pigment supposedly left in the world. I believe that there is Guerrera Paints that markets that they have PO49 in their shop, but from what I've seen, it's not the same hue. So Daniel Smith was the last water supply that had that pigment, and they discontinued it a while back. Marley's question was rewatching the Skillshare classes over and over again. Oh, thank you. Yes, that is wonderful if you want to do that. If you just put your favorite creator on in the background, doesn't have to be me, anyone, you can go ahead and set their classes, and that helps them out too. I think they have a way for like making sure that you're not abusing that system. So you don't want to like watch people 24/7, or I think they'll know that something's going on, but you can check that out. If you are new to Skillshare, you haven't seen any of my videos here on YouTube explaining those, I have one on color mixing that's really, really involved. I have one on building palettes, and then I also have one on animal eyes. We have Sennelier Yellow Light, which is PY153. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is also a discontinued pigment now? Or is it just most brands no longer carry it? Someone else can answer that for me, I'm sure. We've got some people in the chat. I bought the La Petite 10 color Sennelier to get started, but I'm not using the white. Any suggestions for what to put instead? I actually rehomed my Sennelier La Petite recently, and I don't remember exactly what colors were in there, but if you want it to stay Sennelier, I don't have necessarily an off-the-cuff answer for you. I'd have to take a look at it again. If you don't mind replacing colors with other brands, I would recommend getting a good earth tone from another brand because I don't care for their earth tones just in general. Someone mentioned that they didn't ever consider that colors can just run out. So what happens is the artist world is actually a very small portion of the consumers for pigments. The larger areas are in mostly automobiles and then other commercial products that they mix pigments into to color them, like plastics and things like that. So when the automotive industry stopped using Quin Gold, they just stopped making it. So it's not that there wasn't a request for it here in Watercolors. Of course there is, you know, we all love it. But we're such a small percentage of their consumer base that it's not financially beneficial for them to keep producing it. Miss Magic, is that regarding the PY153 that it seemed to drop off a while ago, but then it's more popular again? What's my favorite medium after watercolor? If gouache doesn't count, because that's technically watercolor, probably soft pastels. I did that in a Let's Learn series and had a lot of fun with that. The Indian yellow is a really rich, warm yellow. It's similar to Hansa Yellow Deep, and theirs is made from PY153 and PY154, which is a little bit confusing because neither of those colors are typically this bright. PY154 is one of my favorite yellows, but it's usually like a middle to slightly warm yellow hue, but they can vary, of course, in the production of the pigment. Luckily, Otto was very generous with her dot cards, so I haven't had any issues so far having enough to re-wet. And also keep in mind, if you're new to this brand, that Sennelier tends to do really well in glazes, but they're not always necessarily really, really punchy in their first washes. Their yellows do really well, but as we kind of go through the other colors, you'll notice as they dry, they might fade a little bit. I don't think we'll be able to do it in the stream just because there's too much of it. Like there's too much content to do and I can't really sit for longer than 2 hours, but I'll do those glazing stripes over them and then I'll upload the swatches to my Patreon. When I upload the swatch cards to Patreon, those are free for you guys to view too. So I'll put a link in the description below and you can pop over there even if you're not a patron and you can see them. Yellow Lake is Nickel Azo Yellow, so that's PY150. I agree, Eve. Otto is pretty awesome. She's probably asleep right now, hopefully. But then again, Ian's here with us. So not everyone over there is asleep. Make sure to put the word question in all caps before your question so I can see it. Hello there. Next we have Naples Yellow, which is made from cadmium yellow, titanium white, and Chinese white. This is not a color I would ever personally use in this configuration, primarily because it has both a cadmium and a zinc color, and neither of those are very good for our ecosystem or our waterways. But I do like this type of color, like if you need things for sand or to start off with like a base lighter skin tone, I would definitely add something to it to brighten it up one way or the other. Okay, 9:30, that's not bad. I don't know why I was thinking it was later. Oh, interesting. Thanks, Ian, for finding that. So it was, PY 153 was discontinued in 2012. However, there are still brands that carry this line. So it might have been like the Daniel Smith situation, where maybe Sennelier had a stockpile of this, or Lucas had a stockpile of this. And that's why they're still able to produce the paint. All right, next up is Yellow Sophie, and I know a lot of people really love this color, and to my knowledge, I'm not going to say no other brands, but I don't think any other major brands have this color. It's PY 93, and I haven't been able to use much of it myself, but I've heard numerous people in comments and in chat saying how much they love this color. I'll never understand how some brands organize their paint colors. Like, these ones are bouncing everywhere. They're not in numeric order. They're not in hue order. I'm like, how do you decide on these things? This is on Arches. You can check out the description below. Usually has information like that in it. I'm getting like little fuzz in these swatches, probably due to the fact that this card has been sitting around for quite some time. Question from Tiffany, is Cricket nearby? Nope, she is in the other room. She was a naughty girl last night and kept us up for hours. Like, she was running around, she was like messing with the blinds, her tail kept hitting things, and she never does stuff like that. I don't know what was going on, if there was like an animal outside or something, but we did not get much sleep. So she's probably in the other room, sleeping away. This is PBR 24. I use a version of this from Schminke in my main palette. Question, how I suggest disposing of water using toxic or non-environmentally friendly pigment. So there's no perfect way to do this, regardless of if you're using heavy metals or not. I always recommend to let your paint water sit and let whatever sediments there are. Typically it happens with heavy metals because the pigments are heavier than fine, like quinacridone particles, for instance, and they'll settle to the bottom of the container. Earth tones will also do this though as well. And then you can pour off the water and wipe out the solids and throw those away. So, I mean, we still have to dispose of them, but they don't have to end up in our water sources. What things in watercolor should be avoided to be environmentally friendly? I have a vegan watercolor video, and that was made by request for people who wanted to know about vegan pigments, but I also talk in there about my stance on what pigments I use, and I talk about environmentally friendly pigments there. For me, it's way more important to avoid heavy metals than it is to avoid honey and oxgall. Honey is, I mean, up to you on how you decide that, but I think sustainably harvested honey is fine to consume for myself. And oxgall is, although kind of gross, it is a byproduct of the meat industry. So it's not like animals are being exploited specifically for that purpose. They're just doing something with what would otherwise be a waste product. So for me, it's more important to make sure that cadmium doesn't end up in our water source than to avoid the other things. And in that video, I talk about that. I like to work from watercolor pans. I just think it's easier to control the pigments for the most part. There are certain colors that I would recommend using from the tube that are harder to re-wet. So we have a couple of very explodey colors in this row. Question, if I ever come to Denmark, would you try some cheap watercolor from a store? Well, if that ever happens, yes, I will try and remember to do that for you. I don't have any plans to go to Denmark anytime soon, unfortunately, but I'll keep that in mind. Sennelier has different products in the tube and in the pan, so they're different. They're processed differently. I was under the impression they're different formulas. I'm still pretty sure that's the case, but I had someone else say that they're not different formulas, they're just processed differently. So whatever the case is, the tube color does not dry the same as the pan color is. The pan color is compressed into little blocks and it's extruded pigment. So I have found that they re-wet just fine, but I can show you here. This, like, all of these are pan colors from them, and this one is a tube color. So you can see that the texture of it is a lot different. It stays stickier and tackier, whereas the pans are easier to travel with. Kendra asks, what colors do I recommend outside of a standard 24 set? That's almost impossible for me to answer off the cuff for you. I'm very sorry. There's just way too many considerations to take into account. I do talk about it extensively in my Skillshare class on palette building, on what types of things you might like to include or disclude based on what you paint. That being said, I do love a lot of the Primatech colors from Daniel Smith, and those obviously would not be standard in any sets. So I've got some favorites there as well. Yes, I have Core Synthetic Oxgall. So Core is an American company by Golden, and they have a synthetic oxgall. I actually have a whole video on that from a little while back that you can check out if you're interested. Oxgall is added to paints to help them to flow better. Who are my favorite painters? That's a hard one. There's so many amazing, talented artists. I'm really inspired a lot by Arlisha from Arlebeen and Tori from Juicy Ink. They are friends of mine, I'm lucky to say, and I just really get inspired looking at their artwork. I also love James Gurney. I mean, there's so many people that I'm a fan of their artwork. All right, Tiffany, I hope Costco treats you well. Cass says if you're having a hard time re-wetting colors, to add a few drops of glycerin. I also have a video on that. Either glycerin or honey work well to help a color to re-wet. Although don't add too much to those colors because it can have adverse effects. And I really only recommend them if you're really like having a difficult time. Like Viridians are hard to re-wet, or Potter's Pinks can be hard to re-wet if it's not Schminka's version. So if they're really difficult to re-wet, you can add those. I wouldn't recommend adding glycerin just to your paints as a standard protocol. They're usually manufactured to work properly. Oh, Eve says that Lucas also may have a synthetic oxo. That's pretty cool. Question, have I heard of the Charvin watercolors recently? Yes, I did. I'm probably saying that wrong, but I've heard about them. I have not used them myself. I hear they're a bit pricey. Would I ever consider doing a limited palette series? I actually wanted to do that, but Tio does a similar series, and I didn't want to step on his toes. He has a great series about that, so you guys can check out his channel for those types of videos. I am thinking about doing a series on setting up beginner palettes from various brands, and what it would focus on what I think that brand's strengths are and what colors I would recommend starting from a basic palette, and or any like really special colors that I think are worth having from that brand. So that's a possibility. I'm not committing to that yet, but let me know what you guys think of that. And it's in the running for the thought process. New to tube paint, when I pour out a bunch of gum arabic. Okay, so if your binder has separated from the pigment in the tube, I would squeeze out enough that you can mix the two back together, like with a toothpick, and then that'll help it set up. If there's too much gum arabic in it, though, I would just like kind of dab it off with a towel or something, because if there's too much binder, it's going to dry really glossy. But you can generally just mix it back into the paint. I've also seen people stick like a toothpick inside a tube of paint and like swirl it around. I have not done that myself, but I've heard that's the case. And yes, Eve and Ian are both our moderators, and very appreciative. That's what the little gear icon next to their name means. Leron is phenomenal. Mikey mentioned him. I got to do a collaboration with him back when our channels were fairly small, and he has grown tenfold as an artist. I don't do a lot of the urban painting, as I already mentioned, but his skills have just completely blown up. He paints so much. He paints all the time. He does really casual style videos, and definitely check him out if you're into urban painting. Where are we? We're on red orange. Let's go ahead and do a little recap here. We did Cad Yellow Deep, which once again is made from PY35. We've got Sennelier Yellow Deep, which is PY83 and PY153. And we've got Cadmium Yellow Orange, which is made from Cadmium Yellow and Cadmium Orange. And now we're doing red orange, which is made from PO43 and PY83. Lots of support for the beginner series. That's good to see. It's always such a fine balance trying to make sure that I have content for my friends who have been with me for this whole journey and maybe want some more advanced content, and also making sure that there's nice fresh content for new watercolor artists. I want to make sure there's a good spread for everyone, and I think that series would be fairly difficult to do, but helpful if I can manage to pull it off. Because obviously if I'm recommending a beginner set, there's going to be a lot of similar colors in the different brands, but I think by having a good understanding of each specific brand and what colors do well and which colors are worth passing, I think that could be a helpful resource. You're just getting your notification? Well, I'm glad you're here. We've only been online for about a half hour, a little longer than. Have you heard about Rachel Beth Watercolor? I have not. I do sell my art. I have my Etsy shop. I don't have my original paintings listed because it's expensive to keep relisting them on Etsy if they don't necessarily buy, but I have an entire bin of original paintings. I used to sell them at art shows. I sell them online when people ask for them. So if you've ever seen me create something on Instagram or here on YouTube and you would like to own that, you can message me over on Etsy and I can give you a quote for what that is. I'm also working on possibly making a list for my website and having that updated so you guys can kind of see what's available. But it's incredibly difficult to photograph every single painting that I do with really beautiful lighting and all that if when there's a smaller market for that. I won't say that it's a non-existent market, but there's a lot less people who watch me on YouTube that are able to spend, you know, over $100 on a painting versus a print. So yes, I sell my art. Yes, I have an Etsy shop. I have plenty of prints. The prints are beautiful quality. They're on watercolor textured paper. I also sell stickers and zipper pouches. And then if you're interested in an original, you can let me know. Thank you for asking. You also might notice, and this is just a difference in style. So a lot of people, when they do swatches, they'll swatch the same way for every single color. I don't tend to do that. I try and get a nice even gradient, the best that I can, within a square so we can kind of see the full range of color. But you will notice just inherently that some colors are more difficult to do that with than others. This one here did not spread very much, and you can kind of see over here, if you look really closely, there's a background that kind of pushed into that drier pigment. There's a background here, so you can still gather a lot of information from this type of swatch, but it's not necessarily done exactly the same the whole way. I'd rather give you the full gradient, and I think that's great that so many different YouTubers have different ways of swatching, so you can kind of see all the different takes on them. Eve is a linking machine today. Thank you, Eve. How do you start a website? I recommend using one of the what do we want to call them? I guess website builders. I use Wix, and they have templates and add-ons, and it's super, super easy. I'm not trained in web design or anything like that, but I have a website that I think looks pretty decent. So I would recommend using one of those. There's also plenty of YouTube videos that are usually sponsored by those websites, like Squarespace and Wix, and they walk you through kind of setting up sites. What do I think about oranges? Who can tell Cass what I think about oranges? I don't like bright oranges. I like earthy oranges. So this Chinese orange, beautiful. The Sennelier orange, it burns my eyes out. I bought Schminke Hordam pan. It said mauve, also other websites, but I got violet. The number is 476. I think they call their dioxazine violet mauve? Question mark. I don't have my big pamphlet here to check for you, but if they gave you the wrong color, contact whoever you ordered from and they should give you the right one. But it might just be a naming situation. I love that we're seeing so many new people in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. And absolutely, I have tons of content, and I try and say this in lives when I have you guys' attention because it's not really appropriate for like another type of video. But all of my videos are color coded. So if you look at the bar underneath a video, this one is different because it's a live stream. So I have to take a picture after the stream and then upload it once we're done. But like there's orange bars and those are tutorials. There are for like workspace stuff. There are teal bars for reviews. There are light blue teal bars for our Animal Artist Collective videos. So they're all coordinated so you can find whatever types of videos you're looking for. And they're also all organized into playlists. So I try and make it as easy as possible for you guys to find the past content that I've worked on. I missed a lot again while I was yapping. What's my favorite Sennelier color? I don't know. We're still swatching. I don't use Sennelier a ton. I do like them, and I think that they're a really beautiful brand. They just don't have very strong earth tones, and that's primarily what I use to paint with. So I don't reach for them as often as I do other brands. But they do have really beautiful colors. Do I know of a deep dish palette? I don't know if I have enough information to go off of. Are you talking like a butcher palette or like a porcelain palette has really deep wells? My American Journey or the Jackson's equivalent have really, really deep wells in them. I don't know about traveling palettes. That might be an Eve question. Eve has a lot of palettes. How did the PG8 from White Knight's light fastness fare? It did great. It did not fade. So that's exciting, right? We're moving quick again. Yeah, Eve, that's what I thought too. I think Schminke's Mauve was rebranded. Do I ever find it hard to mix grays? So there are a couple of really great combinations that I like to go to for gray. One is ultramarine blue with specifically, I like Daniel Smith's burnt sienna. It's a different hue than most other burnt siennas, and I find it gives a much better gray tone. It's a very soft gray. I also really like phthalo green or perylene green mixed with any cool red, and that'll give you a really deep black that you can tint out to gray. And they usually have a leaning of color towards the purple end of things, which I really, really like. So those are kind of my go-tos. I also have a video on mixing blacks. So it's an older series. It's a little cringy to watch now with my newer content, but I have a color mixing series where I have an episode on mixing blacks. And then again, I also have that Skillshare class where we talk about color mixing, and that's part of it as well. What was my first ever palette? My first ever professional palette is this one. So I put this one together with mostly Daniel Smith colors. I spent like an hour on the floor at my local art store picking out paints and looking at swatches. And that was after I'd already done like hours of research on Jane Blundell's blog and everything when I was first getting started. The very first palette I had was that same palette, but I filled it with reuse paint and I got rid of that one pretty quickly. All right, I think you guys are just chatting about Schminke Violet some more. So let's see, where were we? I think we stopped around here. So Sennelier Orange is PO73. Again, very, like very bright, powerful orange. Don't really love it. It's almost red. And red orange, I have identified recently, red orange is probably my least favorite color. Like that general grouping of colors, they're just colors I don't enjoy more so than others. But I do like the burnt oranges. So their Chinese orange is really nice. This is PY 150 and PR 209. Then we've got French Vermilion, which is a really deep middle red, slightly leaning towards the warm side, and that's made from PR 242. Then we've got Scarlet Lacquer, which is PR 188. Yes, Ellen, Jane Blundell absolutely was the first resource that I came across, and such a valuable knowledge. I fangirled so hard when she started following my content over on Instagram. It was pretty cool moment. Next, we have PR 255. This is a middle red. They call theirs, whoops, I grabbed the wrong one. Rose Dior Madder Lake, which is a mouthful. This is a color I really enjoy from them. It's really nice and bright. And I haven't gotten to use it much on my palettes in regular practice because I still have so much PR 254, but I think I like this hue better than PR 254. It tends to dry, the other color tends to dry really flat, so we'll see when this dries if it does the same thing. But I do want to try it out. I think it would be fun to try. Is that not how I say it, Eve? I'm sorry. How do I say it? Is it Doré? I'm not French, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is it Doré? Is that? Okay. I'm sorry. Do you think White Nights watercolor sets are good to start with? So I answered this question already in the stream, and I also have a video called My Top 10 Favorite Watercolors. I would recommend watching either of those to get that answer, just so that the people listening don't have to listen to the reply again. It's kind of a long-winded answer. I think I heard someone, hi there, I think I heard someone talk about what pigment was actually used in bright red recently. It was a topic of discussion when I set up my Sennelier palette, the box set, but I don't remember which one it was. But someone corrected me and said that they had found it out. I don't know. It's not listed on Sennelier's website, though, to my knowledge. Yeah, you have to be careful with common names when you're buying other brands of paint, especially when there's translations from other languages to English or English to other languages, just because words can have different meanings. And actually, if you watch the first version of this video, I'm probably not going to go into the whole discussion again, but if you go down to, there's a color they have called brown pink, I think. Something like that. We'll get to it. And I talk about the whole history of the word pink and how it's had so many different meanings. So you can go ahead and check that out. We are on Cad Red Light, which is made from PR 108, and I have got to step up my game. We are not even halfway through this sheet, and we have another full sheet to go, and I've already been swatching for 50 minutes. And I can tell you that I'm probably not going to last. Gotta get this done quicker. All right. I'm not a big fan of cadmium red. Like you guys know, I don't use cadmiums anyway, but it's just like a really heavy pigment, regardless of what form it's in. So I'm not a huge fan. Yeah, I think especially, and I don't have any confirmation of this, but one of the first examples I ever saw of a translation issue, or what I think must have been a translation issue, is Mission Gold's Cerulean Blue is Phthalo Blue. And I think it just got lost because it's not a hue, like it's not meant to do something, like it's just the wrong name. What do I think the weirdest color name is? Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. Do you guys have any? Kaput Mortem's interesting, but I really enjoyed researching it in my last color spotlight video. We talked about how it came about and that it wasn't actually the PR 101 version wasn't actually derived from Mummy Brown, like a lot of people think. It was actually derived from alchemy. Sennelier Red is this PR 254, so this is the one that I typically use on my palette. Windsor's is called Windsor Red, Daniel Smith's is called Pyrrole Red. And this is going to end up drying cooler and a little bit flatter than this one. Yes, Old Holland. I'll go with that, Lee. Thank you, Lee. Old Holland has some weird names. And I know it's a language thing again, but they're long and I cannot say them. All right, Choke, thanks for being here. I hope you have a good night. Catherine, do you want to share the Hooker Green story? I know that it's obviously not what our minds maybe first go to, but I don't actually know the story about it. Or maybe I do and have forgotten. This is Perylene Brown, which is not a single pigment, and it is not a color that I've seen in other brands, but it's a reddish color made from PR 209, PY 83, and PR 179. If you want a directory of pigment numbers, I recommend handprint.com or artiscreation.com. Both are wonderful. Handprint focuses more on watercolor colors, but isn't updated for newer brands and newer colors, whereas Artist Creation is a little bit more simplistic and has every pigment imaginable, whether or not they're used in watercolor or not, but kind of explains things in that regard. I do remember you saying that, Eve, that sap green translates to bladder green, which is really strange, because that is nothing what I think of when I think of sap green. Hooker was a botanical painter. Oh, it jumped off my page. Try not to do too many emojis, guys. It spaces out the chat and I can't see anything. Let's see. Botanical painter came up with the name for more realistic greenery. Interesting. I have had a little bit of experience with the roll of Arches paper in an art class that I took. It had a permanent curve in it, which I didn't love, but if you stretch your paper, it would be fine. I don't think you could expect to use it straight off the roll, but if you stretch your paper, it would be more than fine. Oh my gosh, that's funny, Eve. Oh, interesting. Palmyra, do you mean from Sennelier specifically? Because we're about to get to those colors. Take a look at them. Oh, you guys. Gotta tell me when I'm off screen. There we go. Next up, we have another cadmium color. Cadmium red purple. And if I did have to pick a cadmium color, I think it would be this one, because the tone of it feels as heavy as like the actual opaqueness of it. I don't know if that's a weird reason to like a color, but Make sure you're studying for your algebra test too. But if you want to take little breaks and rest your mind for a little bit, I hear that's good as well. So you're not studying for, I don't know, 9 hours straight or whatever we're forced to do in school. Yeah, Crayola has some interesting names for colors, period. Interesting, yeah. So all of these are the tube colors, so it'll be interesting to see. And I won't be swatching all of them, but you can go back and look at, this was mostly pan colors, except for these two, which are not Sennelier colors, and then the Chinese orange. But the rest of them are all from pans, so you could always compare this to the colors we're doing today if you really, really wanted to. Ian, thanks for linking Art is Creation. I know it's a lesser talked about site, but I think it's very, very helpful. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I noticed a little while back, and then someone also messaged me about it too, that Art is Creation started putting my color spotlights in their like additional notes section. So of the colors that I did the new color spotlights for, they note when like Handprint does this special spotlight on something, or now I'm on there too, which is pretty darn cool. Yes, you wish all brands had a dot card. I mean, if you weren't here at the beginning of the stream, I can show you why Sennelier doesn't have a dot card. I mean, it's a disaster, and it's a sticky mess, and it's very, very difficult to work with. Although I think we were talking about this for some other brand, I don't know if it was Sennelier or not, that I think they could make it, they have extruded pans, right? Like I would think you could shave off little pieces of the extruded pans, but maybe it's just not cost effective to do that. I don't know. Oh, did I miss a cat comment from Eve? Aw, thank you, Ellen. I appreciate that. All right. Oh, a lot more work to get arches by the roll. Yeah, so it's a cost savings, but it just depends if you have like the money or the time, right? I have big pads of arches that I got back when I first started thinking, oh, I can just cut them down if I need to, and you know, it might be cool to have these bigger paintings. And then I realized I can't really do larger paintings because of my shoulder issues. So I have all these big pads of paper, and they're so hard to break down. Like they're on blocks, so I'd have to cut them away from the block and then cut them in. So I need like a whole hour or two sections off where I'm not working, not doing anything, just to break down these pads, and haven't done that yet. Please don't write all caps in the chat, but there's a link in the description below for Otto's channel, who is the one who sent me this dot card. Next, we have Alizarin Crimson Lake, which is the original Alizarin Crimson. So this is the fugitive one. Really beautiful color. You can use it if you're working in sketchbooks or in work that is being reproduced. But if you sell original paintings with this, I would just highly recommend a disclaimer to your clients that this is a known fugitive color. For that reason, it's not on my palette, but I understand why people like it because it's such a beautiful soft pink. Question, oh, I missed it. I'm sorry. I started reading your question and it went off screen. If you could type it again for me, I'd appreciate it. Joe asks, hey Denise, out of curiosity, how often do you need to reorder your arches sheets? To paint on? I don't know. Recently, all I've been doing are swatch cards, and I went through an entire pad of arches just on swatch cards. So I've had, or like a pad and a half actually. So I need to order more again. But in terms of just paintings, I have so many other ones that I use. So I have like Hanamule, and I've got Blick, and I've got Kilimanjaro. So I've been trying to rotate through the others. But yeah, fairly often because I use arches for my swatch cards. Fugitive means that a color will not hold up to UV rays. So in sunlight, they would fade, which means if you put them near a window, even if they're like behind regular glass, they're still gonna fade, even if it's indirect light. You can protect them by using UV glass or by hanging them in spaces that do not receive natural light or UV light, if that is helpful. Make sure you write the word question in all caps so I don't miss it. I have to keep all of my paints covered when I'm not using them, or they end up with cat hair, and they still end up with cat hair, but less cat hair than if I left them uncovered. But covers are a must. What kind of water? I use arches primarily, but I've been going through Hanamule's sketchbooks recently. I really enjoy them. What did I think about the round blocks I used in a previous live stream? Asks Natasha. I haven't used them again, right? I was actually waiting to hear back from the company who sent them to me because they were sent to me originally for a review. And to be honest, I hate to admit this, but I'll be honest with you guys. They never got back to me, and then I didn't get back to them. So I haven't used them. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still here if they ever want me to do that review, but I just need to find time to touch base with them again. What happened is they were resisting water. Like there was something with the binder that made them resist water, which is not good for watercolors. So I never went forward with it, but I think it's a cool concept. New to watercolor and having trouble figuring out what to paint to practice. Whatever you love doing, the best way to learn how to paint is doing something that you're passionate about. There are certainly like drills that you can get from some people to do, and there's strokes that you can practice, but I don't have any resources like that because I think the best way to learn is to just learn from experience. And I know that is not the easy way, and like that's not a simple answer for you, but just to work on something that you really enjoy working on. I also recommend that if you are not like an artist by nature, like if you haven't done a lot of drawing work in the past, don't worry about finding some, like, I've said that weird. Go ahead and go on like Pixabay where you have copyright free images and trace some lines for you to use for your drawings. Because your watercolor paintings will not turn out accurate if your drawing is not accurate, and if you don't have a strong skill set in drawing first, your watercolors are never going to look the way you want them to. So I have a video. It was a 3-color challenge way early on my channel. It's of a tiger. You can go and still find that, and I talk about my kind of acceptance of tracing and how that boosted my confidence into being able to do other things. But it was a really huge turning point for me. I know I missed a bunch, guys. I missed a bunch. Oh, we're talking about cats. Okay, then I didn't miss it as much as I thought I missed. I thought I missed a bunch of questions. I find I go through Sennelier pans so quickly because they're super soft. I haven't used my Sennelier pans enough to know how fast I go through them, to be honest, but these dot cards have done 3 sets of swatches now, and they've lasted a pretty good long while. I think the problem is that if they're too soft, you pick up too much pigment and end up wasting it, but I don't think that if you're using them in light glazes that I would necessarily go through them faster than others, but it's certainly possible. And different pigments have different strengths, so certain colors might get used up faster than others. I go through a lot of ultramarine blue in any brand, for instance. Thank you guys for reminding everyone to thumbs up the video if you're enjoying it. I really appreciate that. You guys are sweet. It really does help. I know you guys are sick of YouTubers saying that, but it really helps our content get seen and helps it turn up in the search results. Next we have Carmine, which is PV19, so this is quinacridone rose. I have a pack of UK brands of paper. I think Otto sent me one, same person who sent me this dot card. And then I also ordered one off of Jackson's, and again, I haven't gotten to them yet. I need to though. I want to try them all out. I hear such good things. How different are Sennelier pans from traditional watercolors? They're both traditional watercolors. They're interchangeable. Hi there. All right, next we have Crimson Lake. This is another 3 pigment blend, and this is something I noticed on the first round of going through Sennelier. They have a lot of 3 color blends, which it's not bad. I think people in general are too hard on colors simply for the sake of being multicolor blends. I just don't know why they're always necessary, but I talk about this in my Skillshare class on color mixing, that they're not inherently bad. What is problematic is when they have a bunch of different pigments from different color families. So if you have like a red and a yellow and a blue, like that can get really muddy when you're working on colors. But you see that this Crimson Lake is made all from PR pigments that are all pretty similar. So they're all going to mix in similar ways because they're all shades of red or pink, right? So you don't have to worry about that. Scooch this up. You don't have to worry about that when you're choosing your color if you truly like this color over other colors. I just tend to find that it's easier to have a single or even dual color pigment because there's more flexibility in mixing them with other colors and you get more variety out of them, but they're not inherently bad. Has anyone tried Wildthorn watercolors? I have not. I've not heard of them. Lee Ann Gold mentions that it's easier to shop across brands. Yes, that is true. So if you know that you're looking for, PG7 Phthalo Green in one brand, you can find it easily in another. And it also helps you, by knowing pigment numbers, it also helps you not to duplicate your colors. So I know that's something that a lot of watercolors go through when they're buying paints in different brands. They end up buying both Phthalo Green and Emerald Green and Viridian, and then you've got 3 that are all PG7 because they were called different things, but they're the same color. And we talk about that in the Color Spotlight series a fair amount, right? About different names and things like that. And then Otto also has a series where she's taking a single name regardless of the pigment numbers and testing those over on her channel. So it's a cool way to kind of cross-reference everything if you want to take a look at her series as well. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that the channel's helped you out. Oh, the honey binder with Sennelier. So honey is not the binder. Honey is an additive. It's a humectant, which helps to absorb moisture from the air. They still use gum arabic, so it's still the same binder. So it's okay. It's just some watercolors have honey to help them to re-wet easier and some don't, but you can use them interchangeably. Thank you, Eve, for linking Otto's channel. So quinacridone red is PR 209, and their version is really bright and vivid. Usually this is a really subdued color, like it's a more corally color, and theirs is really, really beautiful. Hey Joy, how are you today? We have 164 people in the chat right now. Thank you guys for being here. Last time I looked, it was like 110. Hope you all are having a wonderful day. Quinacridone red is a hard one. So you mentioned that you don't know what the undertone is. I've been painting with it for years and I still can't figure it out. Like, it kind of looks, in most brands, not this one in particular, but most brands, it looks like it's kind of has an orangey corally undertone, but then it leans a little bit more cool. It's just a really odd color. If anyone uses PR209 really regularly, let us know how you use it because I'm really curious. It's not one I've ever been able to fully harness, but it's certainly an interesting pigment. This swatch got really wonky. I'm trying to even it out. What do you think of the fact that Perylene Brown and Alizarin Crimson have the same pigments? That's further down, right? We haven't done that. Oh, you know what? They put theirs in their earth tones, don't they? This is fascinating TV, I know, right? I think I'm just not seeing it. It's probably on the page in front of me. Oh, it's right here. Duh, okay. So yes, they are made from the same pigments. They look like the same color to me. This is a little bit more brown. This is a little bit more red. So honestly, like, I would probably switch the names of those because I feel like they would be more applicable, but is the type of brush that I'm using super important. So I recommend, for me personally, everyone has a different opinion on this. I think paper is the most important, then your watercolors, then your brushes in terms of your tools. I would spend the most money on your watercolor paper, then your paints, then your brushes. And the type of brushes is going to come to your preferences. So this is a synthetic brush. I always use a 1/2 inch brush for my swatches because it's easier to get squares out of them than using a round brush. But I use round brushes mostly for painting, although I have veered off lately and used a lot more flat brushes. So it just depends on your personal style, but I would recommend using your money in other areas first, just because I don't think that brushes are the most important aspect. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, I've dipped my hand in paint as I was reaching across to the computer. I'm sure someone downvoted because I've been online for an hour and 14 minutes and have not even finished a single page and keep chatting, so I apologize, but I'll try and move more quickly. So I did this swatch page, like I mentioned, months ago before I actually recorded this video, and it was before I knew that I was going to have this new set. So Opera Rose isn't actually on the first page since it was not in the color chart. So I have it added down here, and I actually need to write before I do this that this is, it's PR, right? PR 81:1. It's rhodonite. And I'm going to grab it off of my box, which is over to the side here. And you guys, I can understand why people love this color. This is another very fugitive pigment. It's dye-based. PR 83 is alizarin crimson. Opera Rose is a very bright color. It's usually made from rhodonite mixed with PR 122, quinacridone magenta, but I think this is just rhodonite. Someone can correct me, but it is. This is very different from others, and it's absolutely stunning, and I completely understand why people like this color. Again, it's just not going to last. So if you want this beautiful vibrancy, make sure you scan your artwork to make prints and or keep it in a sketchbook. Rhodamines. Thank you, not rhodonite. Rhodonite is a Primatec color. Rhodamine is this one here. My apologies. I haven't used the tube version. What you see is what I got, people. I've got this dot card that does not have Opera Rose on it, and then I've got my pan colors. So that's all I can give you. Rhodamine, I believe, is a dye. I have not tried Aquarius paints now. I know that I'm behind on reviews, so there might be a couple exceptions to these, but if you guys do a search on my channel and don't find a brand of paint, it's probably because I haven't tried it. There are a few exceptions to that. One of my viewers, Christine, one of my patrons, Christine, just sent me some Renaissance pans to try. And then I've also used the, what are they called? Pretty Excellent. The really fun tin that has a parrot on it. Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter, did a video on them. I ordered that for the tin, so I've tried those too. And I was actually pleasantly surprised for the price point. I mean, they're not going to win any awards, but for the cost that they are and the tin that they come in, I think it's worth. So Joshua asks if there are any other colors that are as vibrant, and the answer in short is pretty much no, and that's why Opera Rose is such a highly, contested hot topic in watercolors, because you cannot replicate it with other colors. The closest is Quinacridone Magenta, which is PR 122, and I think that's bright enough for any of my applications, but this truly, truly bright rhodamine color can only be made with this dye, and it's fugitive, so those fluorescent colors are not really replicatable. I have tried a little bit of Rembrandt. I had someone send me some, and there should be a video on it on my channel. Pretty sure. I'm second guessing myself now, but I'm pretty sure that's an accurate statement. Like I said, do a search on the channel, and you'll likely find it, unless it's a smaller brand that I haven't had a chance to try yet. I'm fine without the bright colors. I know that it's not a popular opinion, but I don't need them to survive. Eve has a really fun video. Eve, if you want to link it, you're welcome to. You have like a fluorescent palette that you did a video on, which was a little too much for my eyeballs to handle, but I know some people really, really enjoy that kind of brightness. So I don't have any of this cobalt violet left on this part here, but I have some on the little plastic piece, so I'm gonna try and take it off of here. I don't think I have that on my palette. Yes, Joy, most brands will have several versions of PV19. It can range anywhere from red to violet, so it's a very versatile pigment that when processed differently can give off different hues. So this is a cobalt violet deep hue, and it's made from PR 122 and PV16. So it has a granulating tone in it, and then also a brighter pink, the one that we've been talking about that looks similar to Opera Rose in some applications. There's a shout out for Da Vinci's Opus Vivid Pink. I do have that color. Our video is already so long though, I am hesitant to pull it out to show it to you guys, just because I don't want it to take up a bunch of time that isn't advertised in the title of this video. I can No, I can't. I don't know where it is. I was going to say I can show you the tiny swatch of it on top of the palette, but I don't know where I put it. Eve is giving a shout out to Holbein's Opera. Oof, guys, my shoulders are not doing great. We might take like a couple minute break in between the pages, if y'all are okay with that. I can leave the stream running. I have a little card that says, we'll be right back. I mean, I still have 2 more rows before that happens, but that can give everyone a little stretch break, grab a snack, run to the restroom. So this is listed as PV16 for red violet, unless I have that written down incorrectly, and this is definitely the most saturated version of PV16 I've ever seen. And it also is smoother. It's less granulating than other PV16s I've seen. Thank you, Eve. I do want to get this all in one video and not do 2 parts because the second parts of videos typically don't get watched. Even with my Daniel Smith like complete swatch video, I think the second video has like half as many views as the first one. Okay, Poodle Lover asks, what is PV16's common names? I need someone to help me because I always get PV14, 15, and 16 mixed up. I always swap them back and forth. I think PV15 is Ultramarine Violet. One is Cobalt Violet and one is Manganese Violet? Question mark. Okay, PV16 is Manganese Violet according to chat. So here is Helios Purple, which is Quinacridone Magenta, PR122. This is the color that is usually mixed with a dye to create opera. What's PV14, guys? Is that Cobalt Violet? Did I get it right? 15 is Ultramarine, 16 is Manganese. Is 14 Cobalt? Cool. All right. So here we have the Ultramarine Violet. This is PV15. Manganese Blue is another one of those discontinued pigments. I don't know, Eve, do you know, does Dan still have any of his manganese left? I haven't heard him talk about it for a while, so he might be out of it. And then Da Vinci actually makes a manganese mixture. So it contains PB33, which is the original manganese picture, and then it's also mixed with another color, I assume to spread it out further, to make it last a little bit longer. But it's a toxic and not very common pigment these days. Yeah, I know it's a hotly contested item, that PB33. So this is actually really nice for Sennelier, which doesn't tend to granulate very much. This has a really nice soft granulation pattern. So that's pretty cool. I've only seen the Da Vinci version in person. I've not seen solo manganese blue on its own. But I do like Da Vinci's version. Got Got paint fingers. I think Old Holland had manganese blue, right? Are they out of that now also, or do they still carry it? Ah, they ran out. Okay. So Da Vinci is really hard to get overseas. I know they're really trying to work on this. I did hear someone in a stream said that they are available from one manufacturer, or one, sorry, not manufacturer, supplier. I don't remember the name though. It wasn't Jackson's, but it was another UK-based site. I just don't remember what it is. Mark's here. Hey, Mark. Mikey, I don't know. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, we have such a small impact, which seems crazy because of like the outpouring of love for quinacridone gold. Seems like it should be enough to get the color reinstated, but it's just not. You would think if someone was being smart in that industry, they would bring it back and then just charge a lot of money for it. People would pay it. Oh wow, they ran out the same week as quinacridone gold. How's that for timing? Does PV15 separate into red and blue? Interesting. Nope. This one is purple. I've not seen an ultramarine violet do that. There's like Rose of Ultramarine from Daniel Smith that has a mixture. It's PV19 and PV29, and that one's beautiful. Someone's excited to see the, Bolton Brass is excited to see the dioxazine purple. It's really hard to say, guys. I know that these Swatch With Me videos are supposed to be as informative as possible, but the color is not perfect. It's close. It's as close as I can get, but it's not perfect. So if you want to see different dioxazine purples, the best thing I can offer, it's an old video, but I do have a color spotlight on this one, and it shows the ones I had at the time, although that's grown. And then also, for those of you who don't know, on Patreon, they unlocked the ability for me to turn my swatch binder into an online resource. That is going to take a long time because I think I have over 750 or 800 swatches now. It grew exponentially in this last year. It's just, there's so many swatches I have to digitize. Eventually I'll get to purple. The patrons will get first access to each color family as they're unlocked. And then once the entire thing is done, which will probably be towards the end of the year, it'll get released as a public thing. So I can show you those comparisons once I have everything scanned, but it's gonna take some time. In the meantime, Jane Blundell has an awesome blog if you haven't seen hers, and she has tons of swatches, and I'm sure she has one on purple, so you can go ahead and take a look at hers also. Dioxazine purple or dioxazine violet always has a big drying shift as well. That is accurate. Next up we have Prussian blue, which is, I'm not sure why it's next to the dioxazine purple. Prussian blue is a very green blue. So Ian, I did light fastness tests on, I think, 5 different brands of dioxazine purple. I don't remember which 5 they were, but I didn't see any changes. I know that it's a hotly contested topic in watercolors and that some are rated lower than others, but I did not see any substantial changes on mine in 6 months in a California-facing, like south-facing window. So I know that's not a perfect test. I know that's not like to stand the test of time, but it was direct sunlight for that long, and I don't think it's as big of an issue as a lot of us thought it was originally. Oh, thank you, Joshua. I'm glad that the videos are so accurate and helpful for you guys. Prussian blue has a little bit more earthiness to it than phthalo blue does. Phthalo blue is really punchy and vibrant. Prussian blue is darker and a bit moodier. I was really sad to take it off my palette because I actually do like it quite a bit. But I haven't had it on my palette for quite some time just because I do work on paintings that I sell. And don't want to have to put that disclaimer on my paintings about the weird fading issue that it has. This is indigo. It's made from indanthrene or indanthrone blue, phthalo blue, and PBK7, which is carbon black. Oh, they do call their blue indanthrene. So most people call this indanthrone. A couple brands call it indanthrene. It's so pretty. Okay, I have a confession, you guys. You know how adamant I was about liking M. Graham's version of indanthrone, right? I have since realized that I actually like most brands of indanthrone except for Daniel Smith's. Daniel Smith's is really gray, and that was the first experience I had with it, so I didn't think I liked that color because it was just really desaturated. And then I tried M. Graham's and I was like, oh my gosh, this color is gorgeous. It's so blue. I love it. And then I went on this huge anthraquinone blue kick. That's what they call their color. And I still love it, but I have to admit to you guys that there's other brands that do it fine too. And Sennelier is one of them. That's a really bright version. I think Schminke's is called Delft Blue. Nope, that's the wrong palette. That's what I get for multitasking. Poodle Lover, the core sheets are up on my Patreon now. There's a link in the core video, and they're free to see for anyone, and the indanthrone is on there. Yes, so in Schminke, Delft Blue is PB60. Same color. Aw, Mark, that's a nice way to put it. Very poetic. Yes, I'm sorry it took a while to get that core scans up after the video. I actually scanned them immediately when I got home and then realized I forgot to add the indanthrone to it, and then I had to rescan it, and then I forgot to upload the rescans. So they're up there now. This is Cobalt Deep, which is not made from the typical cobalt pigment. This is PB72. It's not quite as dark as I remember Kramer's Cobalt Deep being, but it's definitely more distinguishable from ultramarine than I feel like the typical Cobalt Blue is, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure where the conversation got started, but I'll agree with Lee that I have a huge assortment of paints, way more than any one person needs, but I only ever use, you know, maybe 5 to 7 at most in a single painting if I need like touches of color here or there, but typically even less than that. I would like to pull out this real quick. double checking that my memory is not mistaken. That little blue swatch is the same pigment. It's the only other PB72 that I have. Or is it? No, I'm wrong. Okay, this is PB74, so these are actually different pigments. This one from Kramer is a little bit darker. All right, then we have Cobalt Blue Proper, which is PB28. And for those of you who are new to the channel, for me personally, I have zero reason to ever use this color. It's very similar to ultramarine, and I would much rather use a non-toxic pigment. That changes for something like Cobalt Teal, where there isn't a simple alternative for it. I actually found some mixes recently that I'll share with you guys soon, that I can actually get close to it. But proper Cobalt Blue, not Cobalt Teal, is replaceable by another color, so I'd much rather use ultramarine. Trying to kick my Cobalt Teal love, but it's such a beautiful color. Cobalt Blue tends to be more opaque, yes. And it tends to be a tiny bit brighter than ultramarines are, but there are different ultramarines. So there's lighter ultramarines, there's darker ultramarines, and you can usually find a shade that you're looking for. And we have Ultramarine Deep, and this is the ultramarine that I use on my main palette these days. They have several, looks like three ultramarines here for us to look at. 2 of them are single pigment colors, and then this is the one that I have on my main palette. David Pollock says that his issue is granulation when you don't want it. So all colors are going to have properties, and we have to make sure that we address them appropriately. Cobalt Teal or Cobalt Blue also granulates though, and if you're looking for a lesser granulating Ultramarine Deep, they certainly exist. Schmincke has a Ultramarine Finest, and that one doesn't granulate very much. Schmincke or Sennelier is the one I'm using right now, also does not granulate very much. Did I say Schmincke before? Schmincke is Ultramarine Finest. I wish they started with different letters. Doesn't granulate very much, and then also neither does this color. So you can usually find different levels of granulation based on your preferences. Yeah, check it out. See if you enjoy it. It's not going to be very informative because it's so tiny. But this one right here is Ultramarine Finest from them, and it hardly has any granulation in it. Then we have French Ultramarine, which in some brands is just PB29, and it's processed a little bit differently. It tends to be a warmer blue. Sennelier's version actually has PV15 in it, so they've mixed Ultramarine Violet in with their Ultramarine to get this warmer color. I do believe this one granulates a little bit more. We'll see as it dries. Yeah, the Daxeline did dry pretty nicely. It certainly loses saturation and value, but every version of that color does. Yeah, I agree. I love Ultramarine Deep from Sennelier. That's why it is on my palette now. And then here's Ultramarine Light. Again, it has pretty light granulation, but just is a lighter value, as the name would imply, than the deep version. And we're going to get a background there, so I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit more. I do believe they have a PR 206 on the next page. I will double check that for you. But as promised, I'm going to go ahead and take a little break. I'm going to leave the stream running so you guys can stay here and chat. Try not to go anywhere if you want to see the second half of the video. I'm going to take a short stretch break. It won't be more than 5 minutes. If you're watching this on replay, just skip ahead a couple minutes. We'll be back with you shortly. Thank you, Eve, for being here. I am sorry that you have to go, but have a good rest of your day, and thanks for being here for the time that you were. And I'll be back shortly, okay, guys? Thank you, guys. Alrighty, I'm back. Hope you guys had a nice little break there. I saw that a couple people sent over coffees, so thank you guys so much for doing that earlier on in the stream. I appreciate it. We're gonna swap out our page here. And I'm gonna try and power through this next one just so that you don't have to watch like 4 hours of footage. That seems a little excessive. We'll try for 3. I also don't know how YouTube handles the really long streams. I know people do it, right? Like there have to be long streams available. So I don't think we'll run into an issue there. During the replay, it might be that like only the last 2 hours of it are available until it finishes processing. I know that it has some weird thing with the 2-hour mark when I'm processing videos, but hopefully we'll get it all sorted out. Glad to see so many of you stuck around. Thank you guys for hanging out while I was gone. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the long streams. I know it's always a fine balance though between getting all the content, hanging out, having fun, but then also it's 3 hours, you know? So I want to make sure that it's valuable for your time, especially those watching the replay. Although I assume most of you who watch the replays of these are having me on in the background while you're working yourself, so hopefully I can be company for y'all. What are watercolor pencils used for? They are used for control and detail if you wanted to put down watercolor and then have, sorry, my hair's bothering me, and then have like a soft look. Steve at the Mind of Watercolor has some great videos on that. I don't personally use them because I like the loose, flowy nature of watercolors. That's why I use them, and I don't get that with pencils, so. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, it'll take a while, and then I also can't change the thumbnail until it finishes processing. That part I do know from working on my Patreon tutorials. I'll stream those live sometimes, and the original thumbnail will be there until I can go in and change it later. Oh, good. I'm so glad so many of you like these long videos. I was talking about with my sister who helped me with a live stream when I was visiting her in Denver. It wasn't a Swatch with me video, but she was commenting, and she was totally right about how most YouTube videos are optimized to be like 10 to 15 minutes long, and that's really the attention span that most people have. But then there's like this other extreme side where we've got these long live streams that go on forever, and she was really surprised to see how many people enjoy watching them. And I think it's just such a nice little niche area of our watercolor community that we can all hang out for so long and keep each other company. Yeah, the clickbait titles. Oh my gosh, the clickbait titles these days are so garish. And I almost feel bad for thinking that sometimes, like, I totally support other artists and other content creators who want to have views that get a lot of videos, and sometimes I'm just like, but I know exactly what that video is, and it's not. Like, I don't even have to click on it to know what's in the video. And that the thumbnail is just so clickbaity. But I know that that's a good way to get some exposure and to get people looking at your videos, so by all means, go for it. Oh, Marley says she has the attention span of forever. Marley is one of my sweetest and most dedicated patrons. I'm very grateful for her support. Yeah, I did the same thing, Catherine. Before I had my own channel, I would put on Mandy's swatching videos, and I've watched those several times too, so I totally get it. I am with you guys and liking these long swatch videos and just having them on in the background. And for those of you who don't know, and this doesn't need to turn into another gaming conversation as it did in our last live stream, but I play a specific video game from Blizzard, and I watch a lot of their streams on in the background, but sometimes they're just so loud and like, I mean, they're playing video games, so I'm like, shh, shh, I can't concentrate with you talking about your other things. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Minnie C-Star says that she has an internship on social media and the thumbnails they were taught to create are goofy. Yep. The faces, the like exclamation and everything. Oh, thank you, Marley. Carla, I'm sorry you're in pain, but I'm glad these can be a welcome distraction for you. All right, so on this first page here, we've got Sennelier Blue, which is red shade phthalo blue. We've got phthalo blue, which looks like it has some white in it. Wait a second. Oh no, I missed one. These are all off, guys. I knew this was wrong. I was like, that looks like it has white in it. Okay, blue Sennelier is not on this page. How do we fix it? How do we fix it? Peter commented right before I caught it. So this is phthalo blue. I guess, okay, so what I'll do for the scans, I'll redo this top row and like stitch the images together. I'll go ahead and swatch this blue Sennelier on top of it just for now. Okay, so this is, I thought that looked a little green to be a red shade. I should go with my instincts. All right, so this is phthalo blue red shade, or what they call blue Sennelier. This is phthalo blue. This is Cenarius blue, which does have white in it, which I was right. It's not listed, but they don't have to list white in it for whatever reasons, I don't know. This is royal blue, which is phthalo blue plus Chinese white, and this is cerulean blue, which is PB28. I'm sorry that this is off. I will fix it in the scans that will be up on Patreon. Yep. Sadly, whiteout does not work with watercolors. I could do watercolor ground, but it's easier just to cut the whole row off and start again. Luckily, it's at the top. Pulled mess, it's the end of the world. I know. Yeah, I was looking at it and saying it at the same time. I was like, that's phthalo blue red shade? That looks a little too green for that. Here I come back from my break saying I'm ready to like power through everything, and then bam, mistake. That's fine. We'll live. I'm not going to redo it on stream though, just because it's going to take too long. And I'll just fix it for the scans. It is hard. It is hard to talk and paint and read chat all at the same time. All right, now we have cerulean blue shade. I'll skip a square so we're back on track. I like that they have like two different cerulean shades. I think it's pretty interesting. And they're very different colors. I actually prefer the red shade, I think. Aw, hi Barbara. Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and put cerulean here too, that I only have to redo 4 colors. And it gives you guys a better idea of what these two cerulean blues look like next to each other without having that big white space. You guys are all so sweet. I can't believe how many of you have mentioned the like button in the chat. So cute, thank you. Which one do you guys like better? Do you like the cerulean or the red shade? I thought I liked the red shade, but maybe I like the regular one better. I don't know. All right, next is what they call turquoise green. This is essentially cobalt teal. Make sure our paper is in a good spot. This is made from PG 50. Your phthalo out this week. Yes, sadly, cobalt teal is always gorgeous. I have a color spotlight video on this, and in the comment section we have a fairly lengthy conversation about some news that came out at the same time that I published that video regarding the so what I'm looking for, when you source something, the way that it's sourced is not great. In addition to being a heavy metal and environmentally toxic pigment. You have to be really careful about the sources you get it from, and unfortunately watercolor companies don't really like to, or any companies, not watercolor specifically, but they don't like to give up their sources for proprietary reasons. But a lot of cobalt is mined in the DRC, but we already had that conversation. We won't rehash it here. It's a beautiful color. I also really like, this is what they call cobalt green, but most people would call this cobalt turquoise, PB 36. I think it's a really pretty subtle greenish teal color. Yeah, there's a human impact and then there's also an environmental impact. There's both. It's a lot. Yeah, sourcing ethics is a good way to put it. For those of you who don't know, who might be new to my channel, I was very deeply involved with raising awareness for the mountain gorillas that live in the DRC for many, many years. And I still am involved with that. And that type of industry also affects animals as well as the slave labor and things like that. So it's a big topic. I'm not gonna rehash it, but I just try and be as aware as I can be of the sources. And I did tell myself that I was not going to buy any more cobalt teal after I run out of my current supply, which I do have several tubes of it here, so it'll be a little while before that happens. But that was my personal pledge, to try and not contribute to the factors that go on there. Does that PG50 dry very granulating compared to others? This is very ungranulating, actually. It's very flat. So if you do not like granulation, I would recommend their version. If you do want granulation, I would recommend a different version. Oh, interesting, Kristen. I didn't know that about the mica. Luckily, I don't use very many metallic paints anyway, but it's good to keep in mind. I was trying to see, Marley mentioned that there's mica mines in Canada. I believe they also have a cobalt mine as well for cobalt teal, but I couldn't find anyone who was willing to say that they directly got it from there. I'm like, please advertise this. I would love to support a Canadian, you know, mining industry that doesn't have some of the same impacts. Poor Ellen. Loves her metallic colors. Yes. Someone also mentioned that cobalt is heavily used in electronics. So any of your current batteries, laptops, phones, like it's very, very hard to abstain from contributing to that industry at all. So I understand. I know someone's going to comment down below being like, okay, watercolor impacts have very little impact on this. And I understand that. I also don't understand why people feel the need to tell me that I can't care about environmental factors in whatever way I can. So like, I know that I have a phone and I know that I have a computer and I have batteries that contribute to that as well. But some things, like I'm not a hermit, right? I don't live in the forest and my business is online. So there's certain things that I use, but I do try and be aware of that. I try and be aware of my impacts and contribute where I can. So that's my way of giving back. Just do what you can. That's all anyone can ask for. And just be aware of your actions. I think that makes the world a better place in general. So you do what you can. Yep. Forest green is a beautiful green. I really, really like it. So it's got, I covered it up, it'll dry lighter, but it's PBK7, PG7, PY42, and then phthalo turquoise is made from phthalo blue and phthalo green, which is pretty standard. Yes, I would love it if they would just make it easier for people to recycle electronics and batteries and light bulbs. I have a huge box, and I know this isn't safe. Before you guys tell me it's not safe, I know. I have them all in a box, and I need to take them to the recycling center, and I've had them for like years, and they're still sitting in my living room because it's hard to like remember to find the time to go out and do this. But like, I wish that they made it easier, or that there were more visible drop-off locations so that I didn't have to research it online, because who does that? You know, not everyone will. And I have to go out, I have to look it up, I have to see where the hours are where I can take them, and it would be so much better if it was just easier to do. Luckily, there is a cell phone recycling program that my zoo that I worked with did. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have like bags at their front desk that you could pick up, like mailing bags that were pre-addressed and everything, and you could just send in your phones. And I thought that was so cool that they made it really, really easy. Like, once your phone is useless, if you can't resell it or whatever, you can just go ahead and recycle the batteries, and they take care of it. Sarah Parker says that battery recycling is required. It's required here. Like, it's illegal to throw them in the trash can, but people do it because you have to physically take them somewhere that isn't advertised to recycle them. So, like, it's against the law. You're not supposed to do it, but people do it anyway because they don't make it easy. It's exhausting, you guys. It's exhausting. Yeah, it was hard for me to hear. My sister lived in Southern California for a number of years, and recycling was not a thing that the city that she lived in did, and I could not believe it. I was like, we're still in California, right? Like, out of all the places, California is pretty eco-conscious, pretty liberal, and there were still cities that don't recycle, and it's not standard, and they don't have recycling pickup, and it just blows my mind that that's still a thing that happens in some places. I have a massive bag. I've been collecting plastic, like plastic bags that, not hard plastic, but plastic bags in any form, if they're shipping packaging or grocery bags or whatever. And the grocery store has like a drop-off that I had to ask for where it was. It was behind a display. Like, you can't see it unless you asked for it to put your recycled grocery bags in. And my bag got a little out of control. It's like a full garbage bag full of bags. I'm like, well, I don't think I can drop it off in that bin anymore. I'm going to figure out where I can take this. Ian asks if these paints would be considered granular or non-granular. Sennelier is a very non-granulating brand on the whole. So, they also don't have a single pigment phthalo green, which is weird. Theirs is another mixture of phthalo blue and phthalo green together. So it's a little bit more blue than some other phthalo greens would be, but it is what it is. And then we've also got Viridian, which is a mixture of phthalo green and proper Viridian. I so wish that I could have a composting bin, Joy. I live in an apartment, not on the ground floor, so we have very strict rules about what can be on the patio since it faces out towards the public. And I tried to get a little vermicomposter several years back, and that didn't work out, unfortunately. But even then, it would have been such a small amount of stuff that I could have put in there. Like, it wouldn't have fit all of my waste because it wouldn't have turned over as quickly as I needed it to. So yeah, I definitely wish composting was more of a thing too. We have them in some places here, but it's still pretty rare to see them. Sarah asks if the forest green is opaque or transparent. It's moderately, like I would call it somewhere between semi-transparent and semi-opaque. I don't know which one it leans more towards. I'd have to use it in a painting, but it has a heaviness to it. Yeah, someone mentioned reusing is actually, I'm going to add this. Reusing is actually more important than recycling. I mean, you should also recycle, but try and reuse things as much as you can until they're not usable anymore. Because at least in the US, I don't know about other countries, we have such a consumer-driven mindset and everything is disposable these days. And I mean, I started seeing this years and years and years ago with all of my grandmother's like kitchen supplies that were super sturdy and wonderful and lasted forever. And then when I went to college and had to buy all my own stuff or whatever, they would break like a year later, and things are just meant, like they're produced meaning to be broken so that businesses can sell more to you. And I hate that. It drives me insane. So just do what you can, reuse as much as you can. Yep. Poodle lover, plastic bags from the grocery store. Yeah, so they're actually illegal where I live. The city of San Jose does not allow plastic bags, so I have plastic shopping bags, but like the produce bags are still allowed. So if you get like broccoli or something that isn't like, I'll throw a head of garlic or a lemon in my cart, but I won't throw broccoli in my cart to like touch everything. I used to have a couple of bags that I could put produce in, but I don't have those anymore. They kind of got worn down. I need to buy some new ones. So if I get those plastic bags from the produce section, I recycle those in their bins. But plastic bags in general are illegal here, which is great. I'm very happy that that's a thing. David asks, why is this called emerald green? I don't know, David. I think the same thing. This is PG36, which you would think, oh, it's a single pigment phthalo green yellow shade, but it's not. It definitely has white in it. I probably have like 40 reusable shopping bags. I have an excessive number so that I always have a bag nearby. And I actually use, if I have to get a paper bag for some reason, I use those to put my recyclables in, like to collect them, to take them down to the recycling. So, oh, fun. Joy crochets produce bags. Janina saying she's loving this conversation. I'm glad. Yes, plastic water bottles and straws are actually a really huge issue, and I highly recommend if you can. I know it's hard to bring them along everywhere with you. This, by the way, is a single pigment PG36, so they do have the yellow shade, but not the blue shade. Oh, Joy, that would be so sweet of you. I would love to try those out if you would like to, but no pressure. So yeah, plastic bags, plastic bottles and straws. I want to show it to you guys, but it's in the other room. Go ahead and look up The Final Straw if you can. It's a company that it's a straw that you can bring everywhere. Make sure my hands are, and it's collapsible into like 4 pieces, and it tucks up into like a case that you can put on your key ring. So it's called The Final Straw, and it's pretty expensive. It was like 25 or 30 bucks, but it's supposed to be like the last straw you ever need, and I can carry that with me. I use it in restaurants. I can use it for to-go drinks, things like that, and I don't have to carry around. I have tons of reusable plastic straws, like the sturdy ones from like Starbucks, but I can really only use those at home or if they're already in a Starbucks cup, and I don't drink Starbucks anymore. So like those are harder to travel with because they get dirty, but this one compacts down into a little container, and then you can carry it around with you, which I think is really, really cool. Be careful when you buy them. There are a lot of like rip-off companies like that jumped ahead of them and ahead of their patenting process, but Final Straw is the original company that came up with that design. So they're pretty cool. And then what was the other one we were talking about? Oh, plastic bottles. Fun, shameless plug. These stickers, the new ones that I have in my shop that I showed off at the beginning of this stream, I've had one of these stickers on my water bottle for over 2 years. I put it through the washing machine, or the dishwasher, and the sticker still looks new. So these vinyl stickers are really awesome if you do have a reusable water bottle and you want to decorate them. I love them. I can't believe how weatherproof they are and how great they've been. So maybe some incentive if you find other artists that you like too with stickers, that you want to like deck out your water bottles and make it more of a fun thing instead of just, oh man, I have to remember my water bottle all the time. Oh, good, Ellen. So Ellen has stickers too. You can check out Ellen's shop. Then we have cadmium green light, which is made from phthalo green and cadmium yellow. We are entering the region of greens I don't care for. So just like red oranges, bright greens are also another group of colors that I don't love. Thank you, Tiffany. The final stickers. I mean, I can't make lifelong claims or anything, but I can say in the 2 years I've used mine, they've held up remarkably well. Better than the bottles. I have Nalgene bottles, which I know are like the gold standard of water bottles, and the handle has broke off of one. Like there's a loop for the lid and it's broken in half, so it doesn't have an effective loop anymore, and the other one's all scuffed up. I'll have to replace the bottle before I have to replace the sticker. Hello, Maisie from Australia. Well, welcome. Hooker's green, here we go. Denise, what are the best water bottles? So I don't have a lot of experience with them. So like I mentioned, I use the Nalgene bottles and they haven't held up super, super well. Obviously something like metal is going to be a little bit better option because the metal is recyclable. I guess technically the plastic is too if it's in good enough shape, but it's still plastic. But I find that with metal water bottles, and if anyone has a solution, let me know. They always make my water taste really metallic. I've tried numerous ones, and they also I have one that has like a really weird texture on the inside of it that freaks me out, and it just came that way. So I don't know if that's detrimental or not, but it's not smooth. It's really hard to clean. I like that the Nalgenes have a really wide mouth on them, so you can get your hand in there and like actually clean them appropriately. I know they make brushes for the other ones, but I don't feel like they get as clean. I don't know. David asks how Hooker's got its name. Someone shared that in chat earlier in the video. It had to do with a botanical usage. I'm sorry, I don't remember. There's been a lot of stuff in chat today. This Hooker's green is really bright. They're not normally this bright. This is made from PY83 and PG36. They usually have an earthiness to them. Hot water and white vinegar soak. I will give that a try. Chromium green oxide is next. This is an opaque green made from PG17. Where'd that number go? It's gone for the moment. All right, thanks for hanging out with us. Have a good day at work. It'll dry less opaque, but yep, it goes down very opaquely. Oh, I forgot this was coming up. I'm gonna let the green earth sit with some water on it because green earth, you know. Ellen, oh no! Well, I hope you get to talk to your boyfriend soon. I know you're doing the long distance thing, but I'm glad you're here with us too. I know Lindsay doesn't like chromium green either. I don't hate it, but I would never reach for it over a sap green. Oops. Wrong square. Let's see how this color lifts. It should be okay. Sennelier Sap Green is made from ultramarine instead of a phthalo color. It's mostly gone. Not entirely, but mostly. Sarah, you guys are too funny. Okay, that's... Okay, Sap Green goes here. So Sap Green from Sennelier, it has a decent hue, but it's just really heavy and opaque. It's not my favorite. But it does have a nice natural color. William Hooker, there we go. That was Hooker's green. Unfortunate last name, but you know. Hi, Arlisha. How are you? I know it's pretty late on the East Coast already. Our stream has run longer than anticipated and will continue to run longer than anticipated. I wish I had gotten to stay for your whole live stream the other day. I saw that you were on, but I was in the middle of something, so I just popped on and had to pop out. Yes, Buddha lover. I can do that math. The 3 hours to the East Coast I can do. I'm less reliable when it comes to the European time zones, but I can luckily add 3, so... Oof. Okay, so when I was doing... Sorry. When I was doing the Caput Mortem color spotlight, I totally forgot that I had Sennelier and Schminke that I could have added. I apologize. There's this giant globule of paint here that I need to make a swatch card from. Let's see. Has Green Earth re-wet enough to do that? Hi, Heidi. We are still streaming. Quite behind schedule, but yes. Well, then you make me do more math, Peter. That's 10:20, right? 10:20 p.m. Because then I have to subtract 12, because we don't do 24-hour clocks here. I really like Schminke's Earth Green. I find it easier to re-wet than the other ones. I still don't understand this PBR7 thing, but I've seen it in a couple brands. Mikey, maybe not a conversation for the chat today, but food for thought in other conversations. Next we have Olive Green. Sorry, it took a little while to get this next one in here. This is PY150, PG36, and PBR23. PBR23 is a reddish brown. I have never seen it on its own from a company except from Kramer, which I can show you in a second. I actually like their olive green. I think it's a really pretty color. It's really bright because it has the Nickel Azza yellow in it, so it has a more luminous vibe than the sap green does. Let me double check before I tell you the wrong thing again, but this brown right here is PBR23. Kramer calls it Gubbio Red. Gubbio Red. It's similar to PBR25, but PBR25 is more transparent. I agree. I think the olive green is better than the sap green. Oh no. Two of my least favorite colors coming up, which is really funny because they're my boyfriend's favorite colors. Hua! Bright, bright green. And then we have, if that wasn't bright enough for you, we then have bright yellow green after that. Because apparently that's a need that some people have. Same one, Ellen. Holy neon green is right. It's a very, very yellow green. Kermit green. Yeah, this one is Kermity green, in person at least. And this one is some other color. Yeah, I've pretty much realized that it's just the really bright colors that I don't like. Like, for a long time, I would think in my head that I didn't really like pink all that much, but I love deep fuchsia-y, like magenta-y pinks, the really bright, deep, vibrant ones. And then I also love soft corally pinks. I just don't like neon pink, and I don't like baby pink. But there are certainly shades in there that I like, so it's similar about other things too. Hi there. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Bye, Arlisha. Thanks for stopping in. Have a good dinner. Oh, how pretty, Ellen. Here is the infamous brown pink. If you missed earlier in the stream, I mentioned that I tell the whole story about this color in the first run of this video, which you can find in the description below. Pink used to have a different meaning. This one is made from nickel azo yellow, phthalo green, and once again that PBR 23. So it's actually the same pigments as this one, except using phthalo green blue shade instead of yellow shade, and then obviously different proportions of them. Paraline maroon. I don't think you could call that one pink. Such a luscious deep red. To each their own. If you want to use bright colors, go for it. They're just not for me. Deep jewel tones, though. I will take all the deep jewel tones. Phthalo turquoise. Even like a nickel azo yellow type of color. Deep purples, deep pinks. I love them. Any pinky browns? So not this brown pink, you mean like browns that tend to lean pink? I guess I've never thought about browns leaning pink. I think about them leaning red. If you like transparent colors, PBR 25 is a really beautiful warm brown. The brown green, yes. This is PY 129. Sorry, I skipped that one. This is green gold. Have I ever observed if mixing honey-based paints with non-honey based have negative effects while painting? I've not done any empirical tests on it, but I use like Sennelier's Ultramarine Blue is on my main palette, and I use it in conjunction with all my other colors. So I've never noticed an issue having it be a problem. That's a very good point, Palima. You corrected me. My favorite burnt sienna, Daniel Smith's burnt sienna, does lean pink. You're absolutely right. So I just swatched out the 4-color blend that is French ochre, and what I think is totally unnecessary. It's Hansa Yellow Light, Nickel Azo Yellow, PBR 23, and PBR 7. I just don't think you need that many colors to make that hue, but it's my personal opinion. Then we have light yellow ochre, which is made from yellow ochre PY42, as well as some of the nickel azo yellow, which is going to make this color more staining than other yellow ochres. You guys are correcting me all over the place, aren't you? You're totally right. My brain is just fried, I think. Sarah mentions that Terra Rosa. Yes, that is also a very pinky reddish brown color. I think of those colors as being red based, but you're right that they lean more pink. So Terra Rosa, Permanent Brown, Burnt Sienna from Daniel Smith, Indian Red, Caput Mortem. We're getting down to those, so we'll have some of them here. My hair has reached the point that it is not cooperating or like staying behind my ear at all and just keeps falling in my way. Next, we have yellow ochre on its own, and this actually, I'm going to show you here. This dot is like free moving on the paper. So none of the other ones have done that, but this one did separate from the paper, meaning that it's drier and less sticky than the other colors. Question, when does watercolor painting become something different from the normal muted colors and become a modern trend for bright, vibrant colors? I'm not sure I understand, Ian. Can you help clarify for me? Like, when did there become a modern trend to use bright colors? I'm not sure at what point. I'm not the best person to ask for art history. I'll put it this way. If you watched my channel before, I've admitted to not knowing that watercolor was a professional medium as an adult. Growing up, I mean, we went to museums and things like that, and I guess just no one said the words watercolor to me. I always assumed that professional painters used used oil, or I guess oil was the extent of my knowledge, and I didn't differentiate the different types of painting. And I thought that watercolors were for kids, like Crayola boxes and stuff. So I didn't know until like 5 years ago that watercolors were a thing. Question from Tiffany, any AAC teasers? We're doing birds, and I'm excited. I don't know if this is good or bad for you guys to know. I didn't have like an instant species that grabbed me. I love chickens, but I've painted chickens before, and I usually try and do new things for AAC pieces, or new paintings at least. And I went through a bunch of different ones. I let pretty much everyone else pick the animals that they wanted to do first and then wanted to kind of round out. I will say, if everyone sticks to what we have talked about painting, somehow we did not end up with... Ah, Jennifer's here. Hi. We did not end up, Jennifer, they were just asking for teasers on the AAC. So I'm not going to tell them what I picked, but I will say none of us picked parrots or raptors, and I don't know how that happened. And I don't want to disappoint anyone, but like we just couldn't pick enough birds to cover all the birds that are out there. I think there's over 10,000 species of birds, so we only got to pick 9, and that was a little hard. So, yeah, Jennifer and I we were behind everyone else. We took forever picking our birds, and I wish there were more that we could get done. But I think you're gonna like what we have lined up. We have one new artist that hopefully will be announced shortly on our social media, and then our new videos are up next week. So make sure you check back if you're interested, and you can join along. So if you're new to the channel, you don't know what the AAC is, Jennifer Charlie, who was in chat, and I started the Animal Artists Collective at the beginning of 2018 to raise awareness for different animals around the world and bring artists together. We paint animals and then sell the original paintings for donations to those organizations that we pick. And yeah. You can, the whole reason I started saying that is that even if you aren't a member of the AAC, you can join us by painting a bird yourself and tagging us with the, well, you can add us as well with the Animal Collective, like the @ sign on Instagram, but also make sure you hashtag Animal Artists Collective, and we will find that tag and we share those in our stories the first few days after we launch a round of paintings. So we would be happy to share your contributions as well if you use that hashtag. Yeah, I'm excited to see what everyone's working on too. So for those of you who don't know about the process, I don't know, Jennifer, if we've ever explained this anywhere, but we have like our own private Discord that we talk on, and we pick the themes. We pick the themes that people are picking from the next round, which we have to decide on that too, Jennifer. And then we also pick our species and kind of talk in that regard, and then we share our work in progresses as they come up, but we usually don't see the final pieces until like the day before or the day of our launch from the other artists. So it's always a surprise to each other as well. Poodle Lover asks if I like hummingbirds. I do, actually. I have a lavender plant on my balcony, and it has exploded with flowers in the last week or so, which is really, really cool. And there was a hummingbird at it yesterday, so that was fun. And then like 2 weeks ago, I couldn't figure out what was happening. There was a hummingbird that kept coming up to the patio window. Again, I'm on not the ground floor, and I thought that the hummingbird kept looking at Cricket, who was sitting on the other side of the window, but I figured out what it was doing is it kept coming back over and over, and what it was doing was it was clearing out a cobweb that had formed between my bike and the wall, and they used the spider silk for nests. And when that finally clicked in my head, I was finally like, oh, of course they use silk for their nests. And then I was like, well, that's cool that I got to see that, where it came back like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times in the course of an afternoon to collect supplies. So I thought it was really neat. Lungs, I don't have a favorite species. Sorry, that's the question you actually asked me, but I think they're really pretty. Hi there, feeling a little bit better, thank you. Still have a little raspy throat, so you'll hear me coughing or drinking tea from time to time. Yeah, Jennifer, I've seen the teasers too, and there's some really cool ones in there this time around. I have not started yet, so I need to get on that so I can give you my picture too. Silk nests and everything, yeah, those fancy little birds. All right, so we had yellow ochre here, which is a little bit more opaque and a little bit more of a brown color. This might be closer to what most people would refer to as a raw sienna. Then we've got golden ochre, which is a 3-pigment blend. It's definitely a warmer ochre hue. Then we've got quin gold, burnt sienna, and we're heading on to permanent alizarin crimson, which someone asked if there was a 206 in this line. This is it. Mauve is not a proper color. Someone asked for the pigment number. It's usually a blend of pigments, or earlier we were talking that Schminke used to call their Da Vinci Violet, or their, not Da Vinci Violet. It was Schminke Violet, Sennelier Violet, like all the name brands tend to take dioxazine violet as their own. But mauve isn't a pigment color. It's usually a blend. So we did habitats last year for the AAC. I also threw around the idea of doing different continents, and it was so close to the habitat theme that we decided against it for this year. But every year we pick a new overarching theme. So this year it's all animal groups. So we did insects, and now we're doing birds. And then you'll get to vote on the next one. We do have some fun ones that we're throwing around ideas for animal groups, though. We were originally going to stick with just like bird, mammal, reptile type of thing, but we've come up with a couple that I think you guys will like. And then you're absolutely welcome to throw out ideas for themes moving forward in other years. Poodle Lover asks, how do you vote? We will have, if you see any of the AAC videos, when they go up next Thursday, they'll all have links in them to go to the current poll. It's over on our Facebook page, which I have to admit to you guys, we don't really keep up with between rounds, but you'll see us very active the week before a post, the week after a post, and then of course the poll that decides the next theme. The PR206 would be awesome for skin tones. It would be good for a base. Yeah, it's really red on its own, so you definitely want to add something to it. But it could be a good starter for you. We've got Caput Mortem here. That should have been in my color spotlight video, and I just forgot I had it. Spiders. I'm arachnophobic. I would very, very much appreciate not being forced to paint a spider. But we have talked about other ideas like arthropods, or I think crustaceans was thrown around, which I know isn't a spider, but is another jointed animal, that kind of thing. We have two very different conversations happening in chat right now. I'm not sure what's happening. Fish is one was one of our themes last time around. I think, wasn't it, Jennifer? It was last time between birds and fish, or was it the first one, insects and fish? It might have been insects and fish. And I was really surprised that insects won out over fish. Jennifer's teasing me because I painted a cockroach for the animal artist's insect theme. I know it wasn't a popular opinion, but I had to do it. Everyone wants to paint the pretty ones. And that actually did inform my decision this time around. I think it was Tiffany, you asked me earlier what animal, or if we had teasers for this AAC, and I said I was struggling with finding what bird I wanted to do. I wanted to do a California condor, and they have an amazing story, but I felt like I couldn't do two really ugly animals in a row. I was like, people are gonna be fed up with me. So I picked something a little bit more photogenic this time around. Still a very cool animal, but No, the cockroaches weren't endangered, but I wanted to talk about misconceptions with animals. So the animals for AAC don't have to be endangered, but I talked about them specifically because I think in my research I found that there were over like 4,500 types of cockroaches, but only like 4 or 5 of them are pests for people that people associate with cockroaches. And it's really important to distinguish the two. Like I just said I'm arachnophobic. I know how helpful they are for the environment. I know how important they are, but I'm legit terrified will start hyperventilating if I see one too close to me. You know, like it's an innate fear that I can't really control. It doesn't mean I don't understand them and don't appreciate them, but I think a lot of people associate hate and fear together when they don't have to be linked. And that's why I wanted to talk about the cockroaches and talk about how much good they do, because they're decomposers and absolutely essential for rainforests, and that Madagascar rainforest would not be able to be alive if it weren't for the cockroaches. So that's my little spiel. So California condors, if you want a little background on them and why I wanted to talk about them, is that California condors were hunted almost to extinction. And I'm hoping I can maybe talk about this when we come back around to mammals, because there's a mammal that shares a very similar story, also in North America. But I think it was down to 19, could be the wrong number, but it was like an extremely low number of condors, and they captured the last remaining ones a couple decades ago, and they kept them in captive breeding programs with the specific intent that they wanted to be able to breed them and re-release them back into the wild. And so they were able to do that, and they brought back this completely dwindling population that was definitely doomed to go extinct if we hadn't intervened, again, because we were the ones that caused their initial decline. But the good people got together and did the breeding. It took decades to manage, but they were able to release hundreds of condors now are back in California, and there's a very successful program with them. So I know a lot of people have misconceptions about zoos and about captive programs like that, but they've saved so many animals from extinction that I really wanted to talk about that and highlight that. But I don't always have to be on my soapbox. I can have fun with the AAC videos too, so I wanted to do one a little bit more lighthearted the next time around. You're worried about the the European hedgehogs? I don't know a lot about European hedgehogs. I worked with African pygmy hedgehogs, but I don't know about the status of the European ones. Although early on in AAC, Anita did a video with hedgehogs. I don't know if she specifically talked about that issue, but I know that she did do a video with them. Yeah, Joy says it's cool how humanity can have an impact. I wish that we didn't have the negative impacts first, because there wouldn't have ever been a problem with condors or, you know, black-footed ferrets or wolves, or, you know, the list goes on and on and on about the species that we've harmed. But luckily there are some people fighting the good fight and trying to reverse those horrible changes that have happened. Where, if you don't know, we're in the fifth mass extinction. We're in a mass extinction right now, like a timeline, the one that killed out the dinosaurs. Like, we're in another one right now. So it's a little sad. But that's also why I wanted to take a moment in this AAC video. I know my videos tend to be heavier, and I wanted to do a more fun one where we could talk about just a species of bird that I really like and had one cool offhand experience with, and could share that with you. No, these Sennelier colors are not very granulating, and the earth tones are not particularly strong either. This Van Dyke brown is not what I would ever describe as a Van Dyke brown. Typically, Van Dyke browns are a dark sepia type of color. This is more Indian red. But I do love Caput Mortem, although their version does not granulate. Like, this is not granulating at all. And a lot of other brands do granulate, and I love that about it. I'm not sure about links in the chat, and I don't know what link you're trying to post. I might have missed it. If it's something that is informative, one of our mods might be able to approve it for you. But it depends what the link is. Yes, I love that, Jennifer. Jennifer pointed out that all of us in the collective, and it's been a focus of Jennifer and I as well, when we bring new members into the collective, that we each have our own voice and a different message and a different style with the animals that we make, and all bring something unique to the group, so that you're not just listening to like 9 videos straight of me talking about species going extinct. But Jennifer has a lot of like meanings behind animals in her videos and psychology undertones. And then we've got Sade usually does really cool animals that she's had experiences with is in the places that she's lived and environmental impacts with them. And yeah, it's been a great place where we can all have a little bit of a different voice and bring a new perspective to each theme that we do, which I've always loved. You're talking about the Van Dyke Brown looking Venetian red. It's a bit darker in person. It's more like an Indian red. Melody asks, does AAC only feature watercolors? No. We try and have a variety of mediums as well. So like Amy is in our group, and she is a hyper-realistic color pencil artist. Kat has done like physical items, like she made a purse for one. She made palettes for another one. Like there's definitely, everyone has a different take on it. And although we started with several watercolor artists, when we bring in new artists, we try and make sure that they have a different medium and something new to bring to the group, so that when people watch the videos, they're getting a little bit something different from each one. Mary, oh, I love Mary's videos. Mary is, if you don't know her, she is a scientific illustrator, and she has just the coolest background with the species that she works with, and she usually picks lesser known species, lesser appreciated species, things like that. And she's so accurate with her drawings. They're so beautiful. Like, they're realistic, but they have a very uniquely watercolor gouache appearance to them, which I just think is really cool. Jennifer's looking into doing more mixed media. I don't know how y'all do it. I have enough in my brain with all these watercolors. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is raw umber. It's a pretty light color. It's not very deep, definitely not granulating. What are the standards of professional watercolors that make them professional? So typically professional watercolors will be light fast, so they won't have fugitive pigments that fade in the sun. Typically they'll be more pigmented than than student quality. So they'll have a higher pigment load, they last longer, they don't have fillers in them. Those are kind of like the main categories. Some move better, but that's not a defining characteristic of artist quality paint. That has to do with how much oxgal or synthetic oxgal is added to the watercolor, but it's not a necessary requirement. So here's raw sienna. I mentioned earlier that the yellow ochre was raw sienna-like, so you can see that they have similar hues. This one's a bit more transparent, a little bit more granular. You can post it if you want. That's fine. Oof, sorry, I'm stretching my shoulder. Did you know what many Californians died due to poisoning? I'm not sure what you mean by that statement. Thanks, Jennifer, for sharing information about the AAC and all the different groups. It's so funny, Jennifer, I don't know if you've seen these messages too. I've seen them and usually will reply if I can fairly quickly, but people will message our Instagram group and they're like, I want to commission you for a painting. And I'm like, there are over 9 artists in this group. What do you mean? So one thing that we do try and do is everyone that's been a member of the AAC, we follow them back on Instagram, and we don't follow other people, not out of like meanness or anything, just so that you can easily find the artists that are part of the collective. So if you're ever wondering about our past artists, first off, they're all linked in the video descriptions every round. Even if the artists change, we do a current list in the description below the videos. And then also on Instagram, we follow the artists that are in the collective or have been in the collective, so you can find them if you are interested in their work. Yeah, we've gotten maybe 2 or 3 of them, and I just think they're funny every time I read them, and I'm like, no. We're not a single entity, but you can pick who you like. The thing I find funny is that all of our styles are so different. It's like, how do you intend to commission one of us when we all do such different things? Krishna, I think I missed the first part of your question. Oh, are you headed out? Thanks for being here. I appreciate your support, and good luck with your YouTube channel. Here we have transparent brown. It's made with PBK7 and PR101, one of the transparent versions. Are we still here? All right, there we go. So this color is a little bit back runny, like it wants to back run really badly, but it is transparent. It's a nice rich brown. I think this is probably my favorite shade of brown that they have. It's burnt umber in color. Like I would compare it to a burnt umber. The color after Van Dyke Brown is Warm Sepia. It's PBR7 and PBK7. We're in the final stretch, you guys. We have 7 more colors. Looks like the question. Oh, okay. Regarding... And now I have to find the second part. Sorry, I only have what is most current in the chat, and it's very difficult for me to swap back and forth to scroll back. So now I have to remember what I asked you about. And I've lost it. Is it worth buying? Got it, got it, got it. Yes, so I think if you're going to be selling your work professionally or gifting them or just want a higher quality experience with your paints, thank you, Jennifer, for helping me with that. Then I think they're worth it, and it depends on how much you want to spend. So depending on where you live, different brands are going to be different prices. White Knight's are pretty affordable, but Daniel Smith can be expensive in Europe, and Schmincke can be expensive in the US. So whether or not that's worth it is completely up to you. If you're just painting for fun, I would just buy whatever makes that experience enjoyable for you. If you're not having fun with student quality paints, then you can try getting a higher quality paint and see if that changes the painting experience for you. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, I think it's really important to spend money on your paper if you're going to spend money any place, because a student grade paint can behave great on a higher quality paper. So I would recommend investing in your papers first and your watercolors second, because the paper will make it easier for you to enjoy your lower quality paints. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you, Joy. Let's see, we're at 3 hours now, just shy of 3 hours. So this will be probably my longest Swatch with me video yet, except for the Daniel Smith, which we broke into 2 parts. Jennifer is absolutely right in that it takes a lot of work to find what works for you specifically, and that's why when people ask me what my favorite brand is, or not what my favorite brand is, what I recommend, I can't recommend a single brand to you because I don't know your economic factors, I don't know your style choices, I don't know if you like painting florals or landscapes or animals. Like, there's so many things that go into what decisions you want to make for that it's, no one can give you a flat answer without a lot more information. And that can make it a little bit difficult, but I do try with my top 10 brands video, which again, I will be redoing shortly here within the next couple weeks, to explain kind of where I'm at now, what my favorite brands that I use now are, why I like them, and why I would recommend them to others. And I also mentioned earlier in the stream that we were gonna possibly have a new series on creating starter palettes based on different brands and why I would recommend each of those brands for specific painters. And hopefully that can add some clarity to those questions I get asked so often about what brand to start with. And thank you, Jennifer, for your nice comment. Bye, Catherine. Thanks for coming. Yep, I have a video on watercolor pencils. They're not for me. Watercolor pencils are if you really want control, if you want to be able to put down pigment and then just gently soften off edges. The reason why I like watercolors is because I can have like loose, flowy, big areas, and I don't get that with watercolor pencils. It's way harder. Like, even if you can do it with with watercolor pencils, it's hard, and I don't know why you'd make it harder on yourself. I think it's just as easy to carry around a palette of watercolors and a water brush for myself. That might change depending on who you are and how you prefer to work, but for me, I want the paint. The greenish umber or the light gray? I'm guessing the greenish umber based on your color preferences, Jennifer. It's very close to a perylene green, which if you wanted a single pigment color would be more direct. But Sennelier does have 2 really pretty dark greens, this greenish umber, and then also their forest green, which is up here. Well, we'll let Jennifer kind of soak in the blues because I think that was before she got here. Come to think of it, Jennifer, I think you would really like Sennelier's paints because their reds, purples, and blues are like the ones that they're known for. And I think you'd like their range quite a bit. It's getting hard to hold on to my paper here. We have lamp black, which is actually made with 2 different pigments and is not lamp black at all. This is ivory black made from animal bone and PY43. So I don't know why it's called lamp black. I don't know if that's a translation. Usually lamp black is a cooler black, and they've intentionally made this warmer by adding yellow ochre to it. So Not sure about that, but interesting choice. So your next watercolor brand investment. Oh, cool. Well, let me know. I don't have a lot, but I can at least lend you my swatches if you want to take a look at them. I'm trying to think out of all the professional brands, which I have the least of. Oh, Holbein, right. Like, I mean, I have the dots that Otto sent me, but I don't have any other paints from them. I don't have a palette set up from them. I've got these, what was it, a 24 color set? 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, 24 color set from Sennelier. I used to have a small collection of core, but thanks to Jenny Granberry, I've got quite an excessive collection of those now. Oh, thank you, Carla. That red panda was painted before I started my channel and is still to this day one of my most popular images. Yeah, Jennifer, they don't granulate, so you'll love that about them. Sarah, I'm curious about the forest green too. I think it would be similar. It would be right between a phthalo green and a perylene green, which I like both of those for mixing colors, so it'd be interesting to see. How can you saturate watercolor in pans? I'm not sure I understand. If you're wondering how to get like the most concentration out of them, if they don't re-wet easily for you, you can drop some water on top of them and they'll re-wet fairly easily after they have time to soak in with the water. But if you want large areas of saturated color, that's when I would recommend working from the tube. So if you guys know Watercolor Misfit channel, it's Carrie. She does a lot of larger paintings and she uses like porcelain dishes and mixes up a lot of a wash color. I never paint like that. It's not something, like it's not a stylistic choice that I use. But if you want large amounts like that, then I would definitely recommend that. I prefer working from the pan so I can work in controlled amounts and not waste a lot of excess paint because I know I won't use that much of it. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. What did I study in college? I went to school originally for zoology and I switched to psychology to graduate with my AA. I got sick in college. That's when I started having my fibromyalgia symptoms. So I left with an AA in psychology, which is basically useless. And then I worked at a photography studio for a couple years while I was still volunteering at my local zoo, which I had worked at since I was 16. And I was a volunteer there for 6 or 7 years. And when I finally was able to get hired on their education team because of my background both in the zoo and then also with the psychology with childhood education as an emphasis. And then when I got even more sick, I left that job and now I do this. So I'm not classically trained in art at all. I took some photography classes and I think one art history class in college. But everything else just comes from trying to soak up information like a sponge and just really loving. I'm mostly Hufflepuff, but I've got the Ravenclaw in me that really loves to study anything and everything I'm passionate about. So I can tell you about animals and I can tell you about watercolors, and that's all I got. Yes, I already answered that one. The warm sepia is next to Van Dyke Brown. Mr. Mark, MD Campbell, who was in chat earlier, has a video on how to use white watercolors if you want to check that out. He just did one recently. Any other questions? We finally finished. I'll go over them all together once this page dries a little bit more and after I make sure I'm caught up on questions from you guys. Peter, I'm glad that the videos are helpful. Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. Everyone here. Thank you, Jennifer, for jumping into the chat and also helping to mod, to Ian, who's been here the whole time, and to Eve, who was here earlier today. I'm very grateful for this very long stream to have had the help in fetching questions back from chat that I missed. It's super, super helpful for me, so thank you. There's warm sepia and raw umber. This is PBR7 and PBK7. This is PBR7. All right, so let me grab the first page. It's a little warpy. We'll just kind of go through these colors again. Once again, if you're just arriving towards the end of the stream, all of these will be available as scans over on Patreon, whether or not you're a patron. They'll be public and able to view them. Before I post them there, I will go ahead and do a glaze stripe on these. I don't normally do that for every brand, but this brand is known for glazing, so I wanted to show you kind of how they interact with that glaze. Hopefully you find some colors in there that you like. Jennifer, this color makes me think of you a little bit, the cobalt violet light. Oh, who asked earlier if the PV16 separated into red and blue? Someone asked that and we were saying no, it doesn't separate. I don't see a red separating out from it, but this red violet does have blue particles that have settled. So maybe that's what they meant earlier. I hope that that person, sorry, I don't remember who it was, but hopefully that person is able to watch this and see that. So I correct myself. Yes, I have to strike off the top row on page 2 because we messed up here. So these 4 are not accurate. I have to scooch them over. So this color is this one, this one is this one, this one is this one. And then we get back on track, but I'll fix that for the scan. Krishna asked if I like selling my original artwork. It's always bittersweet. So it's hard to let some of those originals go. Like for instance, I sold my red panda painting at a show a while ago. I want to say at least 1.5 years ago. And that one like still hurts. Like I can't believe I sold that one because it's something I was so well known for, and like that's my logo and like that's the design that everyone loves, and I sold it and probably did not charge enough for it at the time because it was when I was first starting off selling things. It might have been 2 years ago. Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. And so that one hurt. Some of them I like seeing go to new homes. I used to do a lot of commissions. I don't anymore. I find them really stressful with everything else going on, but yeah, I like seeing them go to good homes because otherwise they just sit in a bin here, and that makes me a little sad that they're sitting in a tub that no one gets to see much of. Yeah, Bev, thanks. It's good to see you. I hope that it does help with those buying purchases. I know it's a 3-hour-long video, but you guys are rock stars for keeping along with me. As Jennifer mentioned, some originals I can't bear to sell. The snake, the boa constrictor that I painted that is in my shop is up on my wall. You can't see it, it's over there. But that one is the largest full bleed painting I've ever painted. And it was of a snake that I owned. And like, I can't sell that one. That one's mine. I gotta keep it. I took it to a few shows when I was still doing shows, but I'm very glad that it didn't sell and that I kept it because I think I would have regretted that one. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for all your wonderful questions. I hope that you enjoyed them. These will probably be up in the next couple of days, hopefully by tomorrow over on Patreon. Thank you to those of you who sent those coffees earlier on in the stream, for my patrons for helping to support me, for all of you guys for being here in chat, for the likes that you give to the video because that helps us get discovered, and for those of you who have placed orders in the Etsy shop to own some of my art. That means the world to me, and I'm so glad to see it go to so many awesome homes. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to my mods for being amazing, even though I've already told them that because they're wonderful. And I think that's about it. So, I think there was one more question there about manganese blue. I missed it. Anyway, You guys can let me know if I missed a question. Comments down below. I can answer them there, and I'll see you next time, okay? Thank you guys. Bye. Have a great week. Oh, and I'll see you next week for the AAC video and another swatch with me coming soon.